in, ladies and gentlemen, to NBR, or as we like to call it around here, Nothing But Rants, the show where I find topics that I'm oddly passionate about and I pontificate upon them. These are not hot takes, but rather takes that I'm hot about. What's up? You really like that?
Let's shut up and grind some tape.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome into the Film Guy Network on a beautiful Thursday evening. We got a saying around here every week when it comes to this time of the week. Last show, best show. We got 2 loaded hours for you guys tonight. It was a news-packed filled day. News-packed filled like last 48 hours around the world of college football. Everything from a Super League to a Super 4-star commit for one particular SEC program. We got a lot to talk about tonight, and we're glad to have you in. Make sure you're hitting that thumbs up button, like, subscribe, and rate, review, and all that good stuff. Tonight's show might feel a little bit different to you guys, not only because our boy Jay Will's out tonight. I hope he's having a safe travels, but also won't be able to go to the board, things like that. We got some in-house technical difficulties that we're dealing with, but the stream's still up and rolling. It's just your standard 4-camera stream tonight. You know what I mean?
Back to basics.
Yeah, back to the broke folk basics, where all we have around here is 4 4K cameras and 2 hours of content for you guys. So I hope it's enough with these first world problems around here on the Film Guy Network. I'm going to need you to unplug those things because I can hear myself on a reback. But anyways, glad to have you guys in here. Let's start tonight with the biggest news of today, which obviously was the Matt Zollers commitment. He is headed to Mizzou. All right, so M-I-Z-Z-O-U. Their first commit in 2025, actually, and he is the highest rated quarterback commit at Missouri since Sam Horn. A little bit higher rated than Sam Horn here out of Collins Hill High School here in the state of Georgia. A dual sport athlete for them. Also is a baseball player. About 94, 95 off the bump is Sam Horn.
It's not too shabby.
Really, really good arm. About 6'5", super traitsy individual. Do you know the highest rated quarterback commit in Missouri football program history?
Oh, God. I'd have to assume it's while they were still in the Big 12.
I don't know. But I know the name. There's only 2 guesses, right?
I mean, Matty Mock, maybe.
No.
He wasn't that high.
That wasn't one of my guesses. My first guess was Chase Daniel. It was not him.
Okay, what about James Franklin?
It was not James Franklin. It was a guy by the name of Blaine Gabbert. For those who remember that name.
Yeah,
Blaine Gabbert was borderline 5-star signee up there. But Zollers was a must-have hit for these guys. He, again, was their very first commit in this class and their only commit in this class. You would imagine they start to get the ball rolling very, very soon up there in that class in Columbia. But he was a must-have, and they hit it absolutely out of the park with him. Let's start with the good news for everybody. Or I guess everyone wants to rush to money nowadays. We'll get to money eventually. But let's talk about the reasons he laid out why he chose Missouri, right? Chose Missouri for a lot of things. First, continuity. He knows for a fact Eli Drinkwitz ain't going nowhere. That was one of his primary concerns. Hey, do I know that when I get there, is it going to feel the same way? Is it going to sound the same way? Is it going to look the same way as it did? Or will it look the same way in 3 or 4 years when I get ready to leave that place? Eli Drinkwitz kind of having a secure spot at Missouri made him feel a lot better about that. Loves the offense as well. Watching what Brady Cook and Luther Burden and all those guys did the last year, and even for the better part of last 2 years at Missouri offensively, has Missouri looking good to a lot of these quarterbacks, a lot of these northern, I guess, quarterbacks like Zollers being from Philadelphia. So obviously loves the offense and hit it off. He mentioned something that I thought was very not necessarily telling, but very interesting about Missouri. The fact that not only do they have an offensive coordinator and Drinkwitz, but they also have a position coach there as well. So from a developmental standpoint, he felt like he was going to have plenty of eyes on him and plenty of opportunities to get better and be developed at the position. So that is obviously a hat tip to Missouri and their ability to recruit. But as normally, we have to kind of get to the point about talking about NIL, which played seemingly a role here, Kirby, with this commitment today.
Yeah, I mean, that's the new age of college football where the dollar signs are going to mean something to it. You're not going to be able to recruit high-level players without putting some sort of NIL package towards them. Now, some schools are willing to do more than others, and you're starting to see those schools that are starting to willing to do more win out on certain guys. But I just think that's the era of college football where I don't think this is anything to be shameful of or to say, hey, this isn't right, but it's just the way college football works right now.
Yeah, I feel like when you do this on the back end, it's like, man, they're bitching about something that's legal. First of all, not complaining about it, but you have to talk about it playing a role, particularly in this situation where, Missouri's pitted up against Penn State, Georgia, and Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh made the cut because his brother plays there. But let's be honest, he probably wasn't going to Pittsburgh and playing for Narduzzi. So the next kind of line of thinking goes, hey, well, what can Penn State do? Well, Penn State's not historically one of these teams in the last couple of years that's been out here wilding on the circuit with regards to NIL. We know for a fact around here that Georgia is not one of these programs that goes wilding around the NIL. The reports and the sourcing that I have around this, Kirby, tells me that the NIL evaluation, or at least the NIL package that is being put together right now by Missouri for Zollers, was that at least 2x of the other competitors. So when you look at it from that standpoint, you can understand, okay, he loves the offense. He feels like he can be developed. He loves the continuity with the coaching staff. He loves the coaching staff. He loves the players around the facility. On his visit, he said he had a great time and felt like he fit in. All those match up Missouri. And, oh, by the way, might be able to pay you about twice as much.
Do you think that's because of a way that these teams evaluate players is different, or it's just what they're willing to spend is different? Because, I feel like if you're a Kirby Smart or Nick Saban back in the day, if you really were dead set on getting a guy and you truly thought that he was someone you would absolutely want, you would throw maybe a bag to him. Mm-hmm. Where in the same thing as Missouri, like throwing twice as much as any other team seems like a lot.
Yeah, for them, we already said it was a must-have guy for them. They kind of circled him early on in the process. By the way, this is how this happened for this kid. This wasn't a freshman 5-star or a sophomore blow-up sensation. This was a guy who in his junior year, coaches started finding out or hearing about, and they started to go see him throw at practice. He mentioned today or one of the interviews I watched where, he had basically a throw-in session for about a dozen coaches at his high school last fall, and left with basically committable offers from everybody. So this is one of those, hey, had to go see this guy and see him live. Everybody kind of saw him last fall and really started to accelerate his recruitment process really, really quickly. And you would think that would be something that would be kind of like a shell shock for any kid where you're a good football player. We know you are. And then boom, everything kind of pops for you. And this kind of seems sudden, all this new recruitment stuff. But when I hear that you have an older brother that's already in college,
right,
your parents were privy to the recruitment process prior to even your experiment with it, right? So, or your experience with it. So I think this was a very quick this is a mid-major type football player to last fall. This is a Power 5 committable guy immediately up boards. Everybody's starting to prioritize him. And then, he plays basketball this spring and this winter and this spring, he's playing competitive basketball, really competitive basketball. They end up going, I think, into the Elite 8 for his basketball program. And then, hey, we got to start really hammering down this recruitment cycle. So it happened fast for Zollers. And it's a tremendous land for Missouri, not the first of which on the recruitment trail the last couple of years. They landed Williams Winery last cycle as well. They missed out on the in-state wide receiver. He ended up going to Texas. I always forget his name. I'm going to blank on it anyways, but tremendous, Missouri, state of Missouri product last year. They missed out on him. They end up landing Zollers this class. So they got to get going, but you would imagine they have the funds to do so and now the momentum to do so.
Yeah, I was looking at their recruiting profile this morning when we were typing up articles. I was like, wait a minute, Missouri doesn't have anybody in their 2025 class, but this is definitely the right guy to build momentum for. You want that high-level quarterback that's going to attract other recruits.
And by the way, if you're a high school football player listening right now from the state of Missouri, if you commit to Missouri within the next 4 or 5 months, you can start making money in your last year of high school football in the state of Missouri. If you commit to Missouri, they can start paying you. So this is a tremendous in-state momentum movement, you would imagine, moving forward for Missouri. And the chat is asking great questions, and one that I want to present to you right now. Before we even talk about his fit at Missouri and that quarterback room, I already mentioned Sam Horn. He's going to have to beat out eventually. But where does Missouri now rank with this ability to land these kids? Because this is, again, 2 cycles in a row where they are competitive, at least for elite football players at the top end of their class. I don't think they finished out last class as well as they possibly should have.
No, I don't think that they're overall elite competing yet. I think they're very good at allocating funds to one big guy and saying, okay, this is the one we're going all in, pushing all your chips in and going and get him. They did the same thing with Williams Nwaneri last year, where he was a 5-star defensive lineman, and it was like, holy shit. Missouri came out of nowhere and pulled that. It was similar to the way they did this with Zollers, where it's kind of Missouri put all their chips in this one guy and ended up getting him. So great for Missouri. I don't know if that's going to work for the rest of their class, or if that's going to lead to them being able to do this for 4 and 5 stars galore in their classes, but it's a good sign for them for sure.
So just for reference, last class it didn't really carry over, right? Williams Nwaneri, great football player, 5-star, top 5, top 10, wherever you trust your rankings in the country. They finished 21st overall in the 24/7 consensus rankings. So it wasn't that much of a heavy push. And we know kind of historically in this conference, if you're asking whether or not they're going to be a team to look out for or a team to compete with, or are they going to push for the big dogs, you kind of got to recruit in the top 10 in this conference to be a perennial kind of difference maker. Now, they've also done a decent job recently of kind of going out and grabbing guys off of other rosters via the portal as well. You would imagine their NIL capabilities will enhance their abilities to sign guys out of the portal. One name around here in this market that most people know, Darius Smith. He is up there playing now. So they haven't been able to kind of round out a full class, but maybe 2025, they're so late in 2025, you find it hard to believe they're going to push to like a top 10 class right now.
Probably not.
But they have momentum, and they have the ability to at least sign one of these blue chippers every single class.
Yeah, and like, again, you have to have some sort of blue chippers to make things work, and you can build rosters in the transfer portal now.
Yep.
We've seen plenty of teams do that and go to the college football playoff, and hell, you only have to be one of the 12 best teams this year, so you can absolutely live off the transfer portal, which I think is what Missouri's going to have to do this year. My question for you is that
they signed 11 transfers in the last cycle, by the way.
Yeah, so I mean they're obviously doing that now. But my question for you is: he was heavily recruited by Georgia, Missouri, Penn State. Obviously, he goes to Missouri. Who is this a bigger loss for on the recruiting trail as far as Georgia and Penn State goes?
So I looked at it before, and Penn State was kind of like a heavy leader here,
right?
Like for a long time, kind of out in front. Georgia got in the mix late last fall, but it seemed like Penn State kind of leaned for a long time, especially being a Philadelphia PA guy. You look at Penn State's board and just look at their quarterback offers. They've only offered 20 quarterbacks in the 2025 cycle. 14 of those now have committed elsewhere. Ooh. So they only have 6 of their 20 remaining offers out, and I don't even know. I'd have to go pick through it to tell you who they're eventually going to sign. But it doesn't look great for Penn State moving forward. This was their biggest swing and miss, man. If you watch that commitment video today or the press conference he had, I would venture to say majority of those beat writers were Penn State beat writers up in there wondering, hey, what went wrong here? And I think nothing really went wrong. I don't think anybody did a bad job here. I think Missouri did the better job.
Is Penn State one of these teams that it's like, we're not going to break the bank for you NIL-wise?
See, we need to have a general conversation about ability or willingness. Right? Do you have the ability to pay top-notch dollar, or do you lack the willingness to do so?
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't know where Penn State falls. I really don't. But I would imagine that, they probably don't rank up there with Ohio State.
Probably not.
You know what I mean? They probably not in the Tennessees of the world. Probably not where USC's at. Probably not where Missouri seems to be capable of being at times, right? Whereas, like, you look at schools like Alabama and Georgia. I'm here to tell you that Alabama is the biggest Fortune 500 company in the state of Alabama. You know what I mean? Like
right.
they are the economic booming piece. Is it a lack of ability for Alabama to be out here paying top-notch dollar, or is it a lack of willingness? I think the same thing could be applied at Georgia. Georgia ain't lacking for money. I don't think Georgia lacks for the ability to call boosters and say, hey, I need X, and they give Y. You know what I mean? I don't think they fail to go above and beyond at the state in the state of Georgia with regards to giving money to that program. However, do think there is clearly a lack of willingness right now to pay top-notch dollar at programs like Georgia, and you can see why. I mean, they still, Georgia has not failed to recruit outside the top 3 yet. Maybe 2025 is that year, but they don't see the need right now to go out here and be forced to willingly pay top-notch dollar. They might have to in this class. They might have to at some point.
Yeah, because they only have 6 commits right now, as it seems, and they're ranked 5. Or
after Justice left, there's only 5.
That's right. They only have 5 right now.
Probably 6 tomorrow, but that's beside the point.
Right. So I mean, I think they're in the 17th rank right now. So I mean,
yeah, they are.
So it's not like, and again, things are going to change by the time you get to December. Kirby Smart's going to get on his workhorse, and you're going to see a lot of players come in. But to be ranked 17 at this point of the year, it's kind of like, hey, what's going on here?
To be ranked 17th and to see great football players going elsewhere already, right? Like, even to, like, people will say that they have a good chance of flipping Justice. They do. They got to go to work, right? They got a good chance of maybe trying to flip Julian Lewis. They do. They got to go to work. Well, they still want to get in on the Isaiah Gibson recruitment. Still got to go to work, right? Like, there is a lot of work to be done for Georgia to play seemingly catch up here where, hey, guys, yeah, the signing day is in December, but this is also the same recruiting staff that this time last year had 24, 25 commits. By the end of July, they were done.
Right.
Last year during the college football season, recruiting staffers and recruiting coverage guys like me sat on their hands at the University of Georgia. What? They got nothing to cover, got nowhere to go, got no one to talk to because the class was done. I don't know if that's going to be the case this year. It's okay. Doesn't mean they're not going to, play catch up, but they got to catch up, right? Welcome into tonight's show. We got a loaded one for you. There's a new Super League proposal. The Athletic wrote a nice revealing piece, 14 pages. We normally say I do the reading so you don't have to. I think I'm going to change that saying, Kirby. I do the reading because you don't. I think that's what I'm going to do because I see it left or right. Y'all just don't read, and that's okay. We're going to do it for you. So we got that. Bama looking awfully different. Different isn't always bad. Different isn't always worse, but it's definitely different. We're going to rank the top 10 impact transfers in college football. Feel we're a little bit behind on this segment, but I looked at the internet today. Not a lot of people hammering this one, so we're going to hammer this one. Give you our top 10 impact transfers around college football. The NCAA, little too late, but they're trying to make some help and give some help, provide some help, I should say, out on the name, image, and likeness sector and market. And Dylan Raiola appears to definitely be the guy out there in Nebraska. I'm going to tell you why today. And we're going to play a little segment called Are You Buying It? I'm going to tell you, I'm not buying it, but we're going to talk about that tonight. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button, like, subscribe, and rate, reviewing, and also make sure you are showing love to our friends over at Prize Picks. If you have not already, head over to prizepicks.com today. Use promo code Brooks. You'll get a 100% deposit match. What does that mean? You put up to $100, you'll get matched instantly with a hundo right there in your account. Again, only using promo code Brooks. How's your day, by the way?
My day?
Yeah.
It's pretty good. It was busy as hell, but I got through it. Yesterday sucked, dude. I think you're patient zero.
Yeah, I think I'm patient zero. Hey, Ben Woke, if you're watching tonight, baby, I'm sorry. Just watch the cups you drink after. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you got the man sick.
Yeah, I gave the man the vid. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I saw me, dog. No apologies, though. I had to get one work done. You know? Hey, odd time of the year for folks like me who get like bombarded with allergies. I don't know how y'all are, but I think everyone just assumes if anything hits them this time of the year, mucus related, it's allergies.
That's what I thought it was.
I thought it was too. So I wasn't trying to willfully get you guys sick.
No, hey, it's all good.
It just had happened. So I apologize, but I appreciate you working through it. Can't say the same for Woke. I mean, come on, dude. Just kidding, baby. We love you. Super League. Should we talk about this?
Let's talk about it.
Super League. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button, guys. Man, it's happening, right? Eventually, some version of this, whether it's the SEC and the Big Ten merging together. But guys, y'all know the NCAA versus House lawsuit that we have talked about on this show. If you don't know, it's probably going to be the end of what you know to be college football because there's so many different lawsuits that the NCAA is going to lose. That it doesn't just mean the NCAA is going to lose power. It means when they lose these lawsuits, it's going to cost. It's going to cost a lot of money, and a lot of these universities are going to have to pay up. So let's talk about it. What it's basically creating is this big cloud over the model crumbling has created this opportunistic viewpoint from, let's call them venture capitalists, really rich people who look at college football as an opportunity for some money to be made. Because let's be honest, there's some money to be made. So whether it be the SEC and the Big Ten creating their own Super League and chasing their own money, or whether it be this Super League pact that's trying to get made that I'm going to read to you here in a second, whoever it is, somebody's trying to quote unquote save college football, but in reality, they're looking at college football as an opportunity for some money. Okay, so let's talk about this today. I read because you don't. The title is Inside the College Football's, quote, Super League, one powerful group's idea to fix a, quote, dead system. This is from Andrew Marchand and Stuart Mandel and The Athletic. This is a super league, okay, that is being proposed by a group known as the College Sports Tomorrow Group. Love that.
Wow.
College Sports Tomorrow. So wholesome, right?
Yeah.
So wholesome. College Sports Tomorrow. This is a, quote, group of, quote, several college presidents and, oh, by the way, Roger Goodell's right-hand man. Now, they don't call him Roger Goodell's right-hand man, Kirby, but in first mention of my man, it is, quote, Roger Goodell's primary lieutenant at the NFL.
Primary lieutenant.
Yeah, like why would Roger Goodell's right-hand man be trying to get into something like this? I don't know. Probably because the NFL really, really likes their minor league system that they got going on right now.
Yeah.
So probably want to make sure whoever creates the next iteration of this probably tied to the NFL. Oh, by the way, NFL refused to comment on this with regards to any type of association or any type of acknowledgement of who this right-hand man of Roger Goodell is. So that's just worth noting before we get any further. So not even mention, he's just, quote, Roger Goodell's primary lieutenant. Lieutenant, an odd word.
Yeah, what is this, the military?
Yeah, an odd word to be using with regards to just call him what he is. He's Roger Goodell's buddy. All right, so I'm going to read you a quote here. This is who this group of people are. I'm going to butcher this man's name, but he is Syracuse's president. Syverud. Zverud. We're going to call it Zverud.
I like Zverud.
Zverud and West Virginia's president, a man by the name of Gordon Gee, are a part of CST, a 20-person group, which also includes the NFL's number 2 executive, now we get his name, Brian Rowlap, the Philadelphia 76ers owner, David Blitzer, and lead organizer, Lynn Perna of Turnkey ZRG, the search firm that places nearly all of the top conference commissioners, including recently the Big Ten's Tony Petitti. So these are who these people are. That's who they are. They're 20 people, some college presidents, some venture capitalists, some owners of NBA basketball teams, and Roger Goodell's right-hand man. That's who these people are, all right? And now, they want to implement a system. What system? This is a fun system. This system, takes the best parts of the NFL, the best parts of Major League Soccer that nobody watches, and the best parts of Premier League Soccer, which no American football fan watches. Anyways, here we go. This is what this system is. This system is comprised of 70 permanent teams in 7 10-team divisions, okay, with 10 teams, Kirby, out of the remainder of the 55 or so Division I football teams. Those 55 teams that are kind of left out of these 70 permanents, those 55 teams will compete for 10 spots that will every so often be relegated. Now, you're looking at me with a weird face. How does the relegation work? How do they go about deciding it year in, year out? They don't tell you that. All they tell you is that these 10 teams will be relegated.
The biggest question I have for that is, sure, you can relegate these teams where they might not be as prominent, where, say, Vanderbilt football isn't necessarily going to be a prominent football team. What about their baseball team, one of the best national teams? Are you relegating?
This is separating football
just college
entirely.
football?
Yeah, it's just college football entirely. And they're separating this, and we're going to get to it. They're separating this with hopes of creating such a TV revenue draw that they can, quote, save Olympic sports. Because the universities will have percentage ownership in each of these entities, which the percentage ownership also sways based off of brand. So Notre Dame and Alabama will get a larger percentage split than Vanderbilt. Okay, so you're trying to pull strings before we even get there. Anyways, 70 teams, 7 10-team divisions. So this would obviously remove all conferences. This would get rid of all rankings. We wouldn't have rankings anymore. We would just have division standings. Okay, this would also get rid of all of college football playoff selection committees, because you wouldn't have selection committees. You would just win your division and go on fourth. All right. So, why do these people want to change the sport? What are they doing? Why are they doing this? All right. Well, CST borrows ideas from leagues like the NFL, Premier League, and Major League Soccer to create a system that they believe will bring more television value and sustainability. Not coincidentally, this is the best part, not coincidentally, some of its most influential members of this CST group also have direct ties to the other leagues.
Convenient.
Also a little sneaky. But none of this really matters, right, Brooks? None of this matters, kinda, because the Big Ten and the SEC told them to F off. The Big Ten and the SEC told this College Sports Tomorrow group, I'm not meeting with you. I am not meeting with you at all. Greg Sankey has not taken a meeting. Tony Petitti has not taken a meeting. The Big 12 canceled their meeting. The ACC canceled their meeting. Okay, why are they canceling their meetings? Well, CST claims it's because those groups are just afraid of their TV contracts that they currently have. Kirby, they're just scared. That's why they're not meeting with them. That's what they seem to believe. So it's not something you necessarily need to worry about, but it is because eventually the model could fall. Like I told you, the whole model that they got going on right now could fall because of these lawsuits and court cases going on right now. And eventually somebody like College Sports Tomorrow will swoop in and get in here and try to maximize the revenue that is available because college football is a big business. All right, there's some other notes. Like I mentioned, universities in this model will ultimately have percentage stake, but again, the revenue portions will be skewed, and I don't understand how that will happen because what will you do it based off? Will you do it based off of brand awareness? How do you gauge brand awareness? Will you do it based off success levels? That makes a lot more sense, but whatever. Does Notre Dame get the same split Georgia does, or does Alabama get the same split as Ohio State does? But yeah, we're going to piss off of Wake Forest and we're going to piss off of Kentucky. I don't know. They don't go into that full detail. That's something that they're going to try to decide on a later, venture. Also, schools will have, like I said, ownership in this. So what has been advised by these groups is to tell larger groups like Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, Ohio State, just go get your own TV deal. Just go broker your own TV deal.
Like the Longhorn Network.
Yeah, like the Longhorn Network.
Because that went so well.
And you know what will happen? They will have a Georgia network, and you will pay for it like you do Hulu. It'll cost you $10.99 a month, and you'll get your Georgia games. And that's how it'll be. But it won't be on linear television anymore, because why would ESPN wouldn't.
Yeah, why would you do that?
Yeah, why would you do this? Anyways, so that's another note here. But here's my favorite quote of all this. After all this, hey, we see an opportunity to maximize TV revenue deals, and even before they get bland or labeled, capitalists or guys who are trying to capitalize, I should say, on a fallen system. They want to get out in front of this, right? It's the whole reason they wrote this Athletic article. They got Athletic to give quotes, or they gave quotes to the Athletic so they can get ahead of all this. Here's the quote. While critics in media and college sports who have heard about CST have warned of private equity's involvement, right? We don't want that private equity money. It's just dirty most of the time. All right. While there are some critics, Perna insisted this is not a money-making venture for the individuals in this group. He said CST raised initial money to even pay for fees incurred, okay, but declined to say how much. So basically that quote is, hey, we even made a good faith bargain to go ahead and start saving up some money to buy out these TV contracts because they're going to cost millions and millions of dollars to get these guys out of their current deal. Good faith. We're going to go ahead and raise some money. Hey, bud, but how much money you want to raise? No comment.
That's not important.
The effort's what matters. And by the way, this isn't about money. We don't care about money. We don't want no money. But this new plan is this plan for the new format to create more revenue on the premise that there is more TV money to be generated in a model more comparable to the NFL's TV system. Dude, they don't even try.
Yeah, that's like either you have no self-awareness or you're just so bad at lying to where it's like, no, this isn't about money. We've been donating things, but don't worry about how much we've been donating. And also, this is a really great deal for TV revenue.
Yeah, it's not about money. However, there's a lot of money to be made.
Yeah.
It's like, Jesus, man. I don't know what it's going to be. I don't know what it's going to look like. I don't think anybody does. In fact, every time I hear a college football coach talk about the future, they're just like, yeah, I don't know what it's going to look like. Hopefully I'm here. Hopefully they still pay me $13 million a year to do it. No one knows what it's going to look like. I'll just tell you this much. The moment it crumbles, people like CST are going to tell you they're just here for the love of the game. They just want to save college football. But we know what it's about. It's about stretching and maximizing the dollar. My question to you and my question to the chat is, whatever the next venture looks like, I want it to maintain the conference ideology that we have. I like that there are different brands of football. I like that there's different styles of football. I like that football is still somewhat regionalized. I know the Big Ten and all the conference expansion has complete shit on this method, but just because there are 4 West Coast teams in the Big Ten doesn't mean that I don't still think of Big Ten football as Big Ten football. Still feels like Big Ten football. Welcome Washington, welcome Oregon, welcome USC and its little brother UCLA. Great. But we still got 15, 16 other teams that play a certain brand of football in the Northeast that those teams are joining. So I like this. My question to you and my question to the chat is, what do you think about this idea of 7 divisions and all this relegation and things like this?
Part of me likes the idea of that because you're going to get so many more marquee matchups along different geographical locations. Like Georgia and Ohio State might play once every 4 years, whereas opposed to, hey, they might play every 15 years in a bowl game if the stars align. So that part of it is exciting, but I think you're also, like you said, you're breaking tradition where you got to run the SEC gauntlet, or if you're in the Big Ten, you got to run the Big Ten gauntlet. You have to go through Ohio State and Michigan and things such as that. The regionality of college football is what makes it so special, and I think if you take away from that, you're going to really hurt the fabric of the sport and what it is. But then again, on the flip side, you are going to get a lot more interesting matchups. You are going to get Texas and Washington more. You're going to get Alabama and Ohio State, things such as that. So that's exciting. But again, at what cost is it for?
You presume. I mean, they would, like I said, 7 10-team divisions. So your new conference becomes your division, and those are your new rivals. But you would imagine there's probably some cross-pollination every year, just like there is in the NFL. You don't play your 10 division teams every year.
Right.
You play, there's only 4 teams in your division in the NFL, though, so you have to make up the rest of your schedule. You play 8 division games and 8 out-of-division games. Probably there's like 10 division games, 2 out-of-conference division games or whatever. I don't know. That's way down the road. I don't know how you do the relegation. I understand how you do it in Premier League. Don't they relegate one team, the worst team's out, and the next best team's in?
Pretty much. It's I think there's like a tournament for it.
So
like
how do you do that with 10? And by the way,
that's what I'm asking.
These 10 teams are in their own division when they get like brought up into this 8-wide team. So it makes no sense. The relegation portion of this makes no sense.
I can't wrap my head around the fact that you're going to disassociate these teams, college teams, these football teams from conferences, and then going to say, okay, we're still following the SEC, Big 10, Big 12 format when it comes to basketball, all the other sports.
Yeah.
I can't wrap my head around that, how that's going to work.
I can't either. I don't.
Do you think they've thought about this, or is that just
what their hopes of this is that, or their plan and what they lay out is that they will make enough money in the revenue sports or revenue portion of this that gives back to the universities to what they can still fund all the other stuff, is what they claim.
So you're telling me that you're going to be able to make enough money to pay coaches $10 million a year salaries,
and
have a revenue split for players, and oh, by the way, we're going to keep all the other teams afloat?
Yeah, you're still going to be able to fund all the other stuff. That's what they claim.
I don't know about that.
It sounds like a dream scenario, right?
It sounds like a utopian society. I don't know how that's going to work.
And they also claim that part of the reason that the TV revenue isn't as high as it is because they don't have slotted windows like the NFL. Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do. We play at 12, we play at 3:30, and we play at 8. That's how we do it on Saturdays. Everybody knows the schedule. So there's a part in here where they're like, there's also money to be made. You're not making enough money on your TV revenue splits because you don't have slotted windows. Yes, they do. So it's crazy, man.
Do you think that if we ever get to the shared revenue split, it's going to be less expensive or more expensive for college teams to get players? Because you don't have a fixed amount right now of NIL where it's, hey, we can go out and spend $15 million on a roster. Whereas,
right now, I want to stop. I know where you're going, but I want to stop you because right now the universities aren't even paying that money. The boosters are.
Right.
So it's going to cost a whole hell of a lot of money for schools to pay their own rosters. A whole hell of a lot more money, because right now it's zero.
But you'd have to imagine once you get to a fixed revenue spot, the boosters are still going to fund that. It's still going to be supplemented by booster donations and things. My question is is it going to become cheaper to have a college football roster when you have a fixed amount and say, okay, this is what you pay for this is what you pay for that, everyone gets a certain amount? Or is it going to be more expensive when you have the NIL where it's basically, hey, we can pay $1 million for a quarterback and $50,000 for an offensive lineman and then so on?
So you're talking more like general roster value, not where the money's coming from.
Right.
Roster value, you would imagine anytime a salary cap comes in, because that's what this would be, there's a cap now,
right?
Whereas now there is not. So whether it's, on par with what people are spending right now, which is about, we know the only number we know for a fact is Ohio State, because he came out and said it, $13 million. That's what it cost last year. All right. That's what he projected it to cost. And that's what he told the media. So he's obviously spent more money this year. So if I told you Ohio State is spending $17.5 million this year, you wouldn't be surprised. When this comes in, is the average market value going to be $17.5 million for a roster? Probably not.
Gotcha.
I would imagine it's going to be closer to about like 13, which we did the math on, is about $100,000 for 85 guys, right?
Yeah.
No, it's about $200,000 for 85 guys.
About that, yeah.
Yeah. $200,000 a year for 85 guys. So that's not bad. So I just don't, the Premier League model would be cool, so says the chat. I don't know how they handle relegation. I don't. Because you're talking about relegating, in this article, they're talking about relegating 10 teams to a whole division, basically. Mm-hmm. And they keep them in their own subdivision. So 7 permanents, and then these 10 out of 52 that get cycled every year. Good luck. Good luck. I don't know how that's going to work. All right. Let's talk about Bama. Because we got some Bama folks in the chat tonight. Shout out to Smooth. Smooth is a fan of us, apparently, or a fan of me.
Apparently, yeah, he's just a fan of you. Apparently.
Just a fan of me. Certified ball knower, that boy Smooth. Hey, Smooth, you're probably not going to like me in a second. All right. Bama. Totally different vibe going on around Bama
Not
nowadays,
the same team, man.
Yeah, not the same. I made a joke on Twitter about a month ago about, I saw the video of the media bum rushing the practice field. And the media was so foreign to it that they were all tweeting about it. They're like, we got practice availability today. And they're like, whoa, they're all juiced, because that's how different it was, right? They don't get to take video cameras out to practice under Nick Saban. They probably didn't even get to go to practice under Nick Saban. And if they did, they probably got to do it like we do over here in Georgia, where you get your notepad and that's it. And I get to take a look at your notepad as you leave. Make sure you don't got nothing I don't want you to say. Just kidding. It's not that bad. But it kind of is. No cameras. We got 2 practice availabilities this year during spring practice. 2. The first one, we're allowed to take photos, no video. We got 13 and a half minutes. The second time, no cameras, nothing. You got to go in there with your notepad, take as many notes as you can. Got 12 minutes. Get the hell out. So that's what we got around here. All right. But anyways, Alabama, totally different. That's how it was at Alabama, used to. Where do you think Kirby got it from? He got it from Saban. Okay. So Saban used to run the business like that, where everything's tight-lipped. Everything's, hey, we ain't putting nothing out on social media. We might put out some graphics. We might put out some highlights from the game. We might put out some whatever. But we are the main thing around here. Main thing. All we care about is football. Football. Then I look up today, and we don't give a piss about nothing but the Tide.
I got Roll Tide Willie out there.
Hey, man. Roll Tide Willie. Hey, as a person who does content on social media, shout out to Willie for being in there. Because you know what? That's breaking barriers, right? Breaking down walls, getting up into that joint. However, you cannot sit here and tell me that the vibe around the Alabama football program does not feel 100% different. But I do want to say this. I want to caveat this. Different does not mean worse. Different just means different. Okay. And you have to recognize when things are different, things are certainly different.
I think 2 of the most important things that Kalen DeBoer had to do when he got to Alabama were, 1, establish yourself as your own coach. You're not Nick Saban's replacement. You are the next coach of Alabama. And 2, you have to get in good faith with players and media.
Yep.
And what better way to do that than giving media and coaches and fans things that they haven't seen before? Having Roll Tide Willie out there, being able to go see and watch practices without getting yelled at before. So I think what Kalen DeBoer is doing is kind of trying to establish himself and get in good graces with the rest of the fan base, the rest of the media, because if they don't have your back, you're never going to succeed there.
Yeah.
I think it's smart. Now, obviously, you're going to come out of side where people go, oh my God, it's a shit show now. Nick Saban had this program like Fort Knox, and now Kalen DeBoer's letting it run wild. I don't think it's that. I think he's just made it very clear that he is a different coach than Nick Saban. He's going to do things a certain way. This
is the second time this has happened this spring, where everybody's like, what is going on over there at Alabama from the outside perspective, right? Or at least judging it. The other one was the Instagram video of them doing their warm-up A-skips.
Yeah.
Or their... Which is normal. That was not my point. My point was... they're live streaming off-season workouts on their Instagram pages. What?
Yeah.
Huh? Y'all doing what? That's That's blasphemous under the previous regime type stuff. And look, I am not saying you have to run your college football program like a dictator. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying the guys who win multiple national titles kind of have. You know what I mean? Like Saban ran a tight ship, a tight ass ship. Kirby Smart runs a tight ass ship. Jim Harbaugh is a lunatic. Okay, just won a national title. Tight ass ship. So much so, maybe a little too tight. Maybe a submarine type ship that's like underwater doing some sneaky radar detecting. You know what I mean? Like doing some sneaky shit. All right, look, Dabo Swinney, a total different way of doing things, more of a Joel Osteen approach, but definitely runs his own ship and runs it very, very tight. Okay, so I'm not saying everybody has to do it like this. This dude has won at other places. I'm presumably doing it like this. I wasn't, searching through with a fine-tooth comb what they were doing at Washington. It's just different.
No, I think you also have to take into consideration this is a different situation for Kalen DeBoer. This isn't Kirby Smart taking over Georgia or Nick Saban taking over Alabama, where you come in and say, all right, y'all want to win, you're going to have to listen to me, otherwise it's my way or the highway, effectively. You've had that for 17 years, so this other guy coming in and trying to do the same thing is probably not going to go over well. I think what Kalen DeBoer is doing right now is kind of establishing, one, again, getting good graces, and two, people aren't expecting him to win a national title in year one. It'd be great if he did. It'd be fantastic, but I don't think that's the realistic expectation right now. So if you have this year, establish goodwill, and then maybe you can start saying, okay, this is what needs to change. But right now, getting good graces with your fan base.
Chris Foster, our resident Tennessee fan in the chat, brings up a good point here. If you're different than the greatest ever, you're probably worse.
Yeah, but you don't have a choice in that regard. Like, it was always going to be different as soon as Saban retired.
I think the biggest point about this to me, if I were to say, I'm not spinning it positive or negatively, but the positive look on this is the fact that we know for a fact over the last 2.5 months of the decision making of Kalen DeBoer, he is very much so going to be an individual. He is going to be himself, true to himself. He's going to do it the way he wants to do it. So that normally leads to success based off his track record, right? He's been doing it this way, for a long time. He wins a lot of football games everywhere else. So, just interesting to note that it is indeed very different. All right. A lot of transfers, Kirby.
Whole lot of transfers.
A lot of transfers. I don't know how we want to do this. I guess we just rattle off the list of contenders and then rank them.
Rank the teams or rank the...
No, rank the individual landings of these players.
I'm with that.
Right? All right, so here's the pool. All right, I'm going to go ding, ding, ding on my list so I don't give it away. Even though I haven't these are all bullet points. I haven't ranked these yet. All right, here we go. Got Jamon Dumas-Johnson to Kentucky. Caleb Downs to Ohio State. Marvin Jones Jr. to Florida State. Isaiah Bond to Texas. Trevor Etienne to Georgia. Dylan Gabriel to Oregon. Tyler Barron, who most people probably think is at Ole Miss, he transferred to Louisville. Quinshon Judkins, obviously transferred to Ohio State. DJU down there at Florida State. Cam Ward at Miami. Walter Nolan at Ole Miss. Those are kind of our list of really, really high impact transfers. Did I miss anybody?
I don't think you missed any big marquee names. You could kind of get, if you want to get like really specific,
you could argue
Brock Vandagriff, Dante Moore, Malik Murphy, things such as that. But I think as far as like big marquee names that are going to have the most impact, I think you got it.
All right, let's take out JDJ and put BVG.
Okay.
How about that? All right, so those are kind of our rankings. All right, who out of that list, is there anybody that stands out automatically? Damn, that's a massive addition.
Caleb Downs.
Yeah,
I mean, we said that when he hit the portal, like whoever gets this guy is going to, like, their national title odds are going to change. That's how good of a player he is.
And again, I'm going to state it over and over again because sometimes I feel like our retention rate around here isn't as high as it should be. He gonna win a Heisman at some point at Ohio State. If he finishes his career there, I believe you need to put some dollars on Caleb Downs wherever you can get it to win the Heisman. And here's why.
Do it just for the value.
Just for the value. But here's why. I'm under the impression there were some stipulations outside of name, image, and likeness. There were football stipulations about Ohio State and about where Caleb Downs was going to go to next. And there were some things that he wanted. He wanted to be a kickoff returner. He wanted to be a punt returner. But he also wanted to play a little offense. So I'm not saying he's going to play both ways the full time, but they very clearly think he has the ability, and I believe so too. He has the ability to be the next Charles Woodson has a very strong possibility to do so. So I think Caleb Downs, yes, is not only the most impactful transfer this offseason, but he does indeed have a chance to potentially win the Heisman at some point. All right. I'm going to go Dylan Gabriel, number 2 here.
Yeah, that's a good
because
pick.
of that. That is a national kind of title contending program right now.
Team.
It's got guts. It's got playoff guts. Okay. And they needed a solid starting and borderline professional quarterback. And they got that in Dylan Gabriel. I'm going to rank him number 2. Who do you have for a suggestion of number 3?
For number 3, I'd honestly go Walter Nolan.
I like that. Isaiah Bond's a huge addition at Texas, considering what they lost in the wide receiver room.
Yeah. I just think that, I mean, we've said it all the time. The game is won in the line of scrimmage, and when you can recruit an elite former 5-star pick to be on your team, Ole Miss got a really, really good player in Walter Nolan.
Absolutely. And now, look, Walter didn't. This will be his 3rd year in college, right?
Yeah, because he was part of that big A&M
2022 class. Walter didn't have a great freshman year. Not as great as I thought he was. Like, I thought he was going to go in and look like Derek Brown year 1.
Right.
Started to show signs of Derek Brown-esque last year during his time at Texas A&M. I think he had 45 tackles last year, 9.5 TFLs, 4.5 sacks, and was really towards the end of the year starting to rack up a tremendous season. So yeah, I'm with you right there. Let's go Walter Nolan 3. And then there's a bunch of really high impactful players. I think Marvin Jones Jr. has an opportunity to do some special stuff this year at Florida State, not only because of, hey, this is this guy's first opportunity to get a bunch of run, but also what they lost in Jared Verse last year.
Yeah, and I mean, if you go by history, that Florida State getting an edge rusher from Georgia has gone pretty well from them. Who was it in 2020 where they got the
Johnson.
Jermaine Johnson was a first-round pick for them. He was probably the best player on those team for those years. I mean, they were awful in 2021 with the exception of Jermaine Johnson. So, yeah, Marvin Jones could be massive for Florida State, a team that has lost a ton.
You got any suggestions for number 5?
For number 5, I mean, adding Quinshon Judkins to that backfield with Travion Henderson,
a little nuts.
That makes it scary.
A little nutty, especially considering just how damn good Quinshon is. And look, I think there's a lot of people that are going to look at his box scores from last year, look at his stats and go, oh, look, had a down year. Buddy, he had a fractured rib for a month or some internal bleeding or something. It was something core related. He had a core injury. And the first 5 games of the year, he just wasn't himself.
No, he wasn't. He definitely was not the Quinshon Judkins we saw that the freshman year, but he's still an elite running back.
All right, number 6, I'm going to go Cam Ward down in Miami. I just think they had such a positional need, and I think he was the best. No, Dylan Gabriel, and then he was the second best quarterback in the transfer portal I thought that was available.
Over Dante Moore?
We know that's not going to be a year 1 thing for him. So, no, I would have put Dante Moore over all of them because it's a year 2 and year 3 thing up there at Oregon, and he's going to be great. But he's not playing this year.
So you're just talking about immediate impact for this season.
Impact this year, I thought Cam Ward was the second most impactful transfer at the quarterback position this offseason.
I would agree with that. I think that, and he's not on our list, but a sneaky name to pay attention to is Will Howard. Because, I mean, Will Howard's going to...
Will Howard believer?
Well, here's the thing. He's going to have an impact on this Ohio State team. They're going to live or die by Will Howard at some point. You're not going to be able to Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson your way to a national title. You're going to have to rely on him.
Oh, Chip Kelly would beg to differ.
We'll see.
I don't know why I just... what's his name? Wait a minute, brother. Hold it there, brother. No, I'm with you. I think, that's a...
Dark horse.
A dark horse. I didn't even list him in the group of candidates here because... I think it's well known, well documented. Not a Will Howard believer yet.
That's fine.
I'm not a Will Howard believer yet. By the way, I don't think Ohio State is yet. There's some reports that Julian Sand might be the best looking quarterback during spring up there right now.
Yikes.
Yeah. Spent a lot of money. Got to make it happen this year, Ryan Day. All right, so we're at number 7 now, and we got a bunch. Here's what's left. We have Trevor Etienne left. We have BVG left. Tyler Barron, DJU. Okay, Isaiah Bond. I'm going to put right there.
Oh, we haven't put Isaiah. Yeah, go ahead.
We haven't put him on the list yet. We're going to make him number 7.
I'd go Brock after that. I mean, Brock is essentially going to be their. You're going to live or die by what Brock Vandegrift does in 2024
no doubt.
Kentucky. So
Ain't no doubt.
He's going to have the biggest impact on that team.
The highlights. You've been seeing it from Kentucky.
Yeah, he's looking good.
They've been doing it. They've been doing the thing. Hey, because he does this. I mean, he did this at Georgia. Brock will make 4 or 5 throws every single practice that make you think he might be the greatest quarterback to ever walk the planet. I mean, holy shit, he can throw the football. Okay, there are days where he just he turns that shit on. But you're right. They will go as far as he goes this year. I've said it multiple times about Brock. I want to see 2 things. I want to see pocket awareness, like just manage the pocket well this year. Don't bail out of it, okay? Don't just scatter because you got to scatter. Now, compete on 3rd and 5, but don't be bailing out of pockets on 1st and 10 when we're trying to take a shot, okay? So that kind of thing, and I want to see him protect the football. Don't have any, damn, you didn't see that. I don't want to see any interceptions like that.
I would add consistency to that list because, like you said, there are certain players where it's like, oh my God, why is this guy not starting right now? And then there's other players where you go, oh, okay, well, that's why, because he's still doing that. So consistency, I think, is going to be a big thing for him too. Now,
look, Rod Robinson's had a great spring this year, but they needed a lightning to the thunder, and they got exactly that in Trevor Etienne this offseason. I'm going to put him at number 9. I think he was a huge addition.
Yeah, adding Trevor Etienne into that running back room, I mean, is that the deepest running back room in the SEC right now?
I am ignorant on the rest of them to be sitting here saying that.
I feel like
I'll say this: it's the deepest Georgia's been since probably the year where they had Swift, Holyfield, and Harrion.
That would be 2018.
Yeah. I would say they're as deep now as they've been since then.
2018 and 2019. Yeah,
because then you got years in a row where it's just Swift and McIntosh, both of which rather injury prone.
Right.
Okay. So, yeah, I would say Georgia's deeper now than they've been in like 5 or 6 years. And they're a really deep football team normally.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Juckins, Cam. Okay. That leaves us basically DJU and Tyler Barron. I'm going Tyler Barron because I don't believe in DJU at all. I don't even know if he's going to – there's rumors about them potentially like actually making that a battle. Now, I don't know if they're just doing that to do that. But – I was kind of shocked. I feel like every year when I'm watching NBA during the playoffs, because I don't watch it during the year, I'm like, damn, he's still in the league? Or damn, Buddy plays for that team.
Right.
I felt that way about Tyler Barron today when I remembered he's at Louisville.
Yeah.
Because there was a time there where he publicly committed to Ole Miss.
Right.
And then he wavered and wiffle-waffled, and Tennessee fans thought he might be coming back there. Ends up going to play for Jeff Brom. I think this is a huge addition for a Brom team who is or at least last year was very defensive-based.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see what this Louisville team does next year because they had, by all considerations, a really, really good 2023. I mean, could have won the ACC. So it's going to be very interesting to see where they go from here. Was that a flash in the pan type season, or are they going to build off that with the guys? I mean, going and getting Tyler Barron is certainly an excellent step towards doing that.
All righty. On to our next topic, which is the NCAA being a little bit too late.
Story of their lives.
Yeah, it's the downfall of them, but I think people think the NCAA is the ultimate decider and the ultimate decision maker, but it's the furthest thing from the truth. The best way I can put this, and there's a long 6-minute video that I have up on my Twitter account that explains this tremendously, dating all the way back to the early 90s when the NCAA was on Capitol Hill trying to get some help on the BCS. And it goes all the way back to this, where Congress looks at the NCAA a lot like I do, where the NCAA basically is Roger Goodell. They're just a shill for the major Power 5 conference teams to tell what to do and then to take the brunt of the force of the ugliness from it. That's all they are. The NCAA is a organization that has now not – isn't what they were created to be. But since Power 5 football has become such a business, they are basically just there to be told what to do. So when NIL first came out, all the schools told the NCAA, we don't want nothing to do with that. We don't want to be tied with it at all. Okay, we don't want to have to deal with it. We don't want to have to be the governor of it. We don't have to do anything. We just want to be able to do it. We want our football teams to be able to do it, but we don't want to have to regard anything in regards to revenue sharing. We don't have to collectively bargain anything. We don't want to do any of that. So NCAA, basically throw your hands up and just sit on it for a while. And then eventually we'll see what happens when this NIL stuff comes around, which basically just collective payments and all that good stuff. So the NCAA came out today and has introduced a proposal to grant colleges more involvement in name, image, and likeness negotiations. Now, there's a separation of name, image, and likeness. There's pay for play, and there's actual name, image, and likeness. Both fall under the one category and are labeled NIL, but that's not what they are. Okay, name, image, and likeness is legitimate marketing. Okay, Coke wants to sponsor you because you're a great football player. Coke's going to pay you money. That's name, image, and likeness. Pay for play or collective inducements is just that. It is a collective pooling money together and giving Johnny money because Johnny plays for the collective school. Okay, two separate things. This stuff from the NCAA is just in hopes to help with the legitimate income of athletes. It has nothing to do with actually governing the stuff that's kind of quote unquote ruining the sport right now, which is pay for play from collectives. However, worth reading. The NCAA's NIL working group has introduced a proposal that will permit schools to give assistance and services to student athletes in pursuit of NIL opportunities. The proposal will make it possible for schools to help identify NIL opportunities for student athletes, as well as helping to orchestrate deals with third parties. When you read that, you would think that's something they should have been doing a long time. You know, like, yeah, the schools should probably help facilitate some of this stuff because the schools are the ones allowing these athletes to play for their brands, right? They want to be associated with not only the athlete, but the athlete that the brand or the brand that the athlete represents, right? So you would think that, you know, schools would probably help facilitate some of this stuff, or at least help protect these athletes from getting taken advantage of or anything. No. This was completely illegal prior to this. However, NCAA playing catch up here, which is really, again, the schools playing catch up. Has very little to do with the NCAA. They are a shill. Tried to tell you all that for a while. All right, here's what's actually being proposed, right? Here's the legislation kind of format that they're trying to create here, Curb. This legislation creates, one, a voluntary registration process for NIL professional service providers such as agents and advisors. So basically, you can volunteer to be registered within this system so you can help facilitate some of these deals for some of these athletes. Two, it will create a disclosure database of athlete NIL deals of $600 or more. Basically, they're the IRS. If you get over $600 or more, you're going to have to report this to this organization. Three, standardized NIL contracts as well as comprehensive educational plan. I don't know what a comprehensive educational plan is, but this sounds like good news to me. Although it doesn't really matter because I was like maybe like 5 or 6 of these athletes on each teams are actually getting real marketable deals. Right. The rest of them are getting pay for play. This shit doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, half of it's also like, again, the biggest thing I always come back to in this is, how are you going to enforce it? Yeah, you can say we need to have this database set up and things such as that, but you're never going to be able to stop teams from doing under the table deals.
No.
So again, like, it's great that you want to put all these systems and all these guardrails in place to keep players safe and keep things in. And I feel like having good contracts will actually be structural for the players in certain scenarios where it's not like you're getting hosed on $100,000. But at the end of the day, if a player wants to, if a team wants to play a player $60,000 on the table, you're not going to stop that. You're not going to police that.
No, you are not. I don't understand Tennessee fans, and here's why. What you are doing is legal. We all know this. You won your court case. What you're doing is legal. If it is, why they always sound so guilty? Always sound so like they have a complex about getting picked on about this stuff. I didn't mention dirty money at all. I didn't mention collective money being bad. I was just trying to separate the difference between pay for play and name, image, and likeness. The two are totally different. Okay, and everybody has stated this out front and out in the open. Nick Saban said it on Capitol Hill. Everybody got mad at the old man. Deion Sanders said the same shit at Jacksonville State. What we have is not name, image, and likeness. What we have is pay for play. Y'all got the biggest damn and deepest pockets in the world. Just act like it. Just talk about it like you do, Tennessee fans. I'm not picking on you. I'm not saying what you do is bad. No one is. It's just unfair. It's just a little bit unfair. But that's all good because the other system was unfair for other people, right? The old system was unfair for the people who were cheating good.
Right.
And doing the cash payments good.
I mean, I don't think you're ever going to have a system that's equitable to every single team. There's 130 teams. 132 teams in the FBS, 132 Division I teams.
Yeah.
You're not going to create a system that's equitable to every single one of them to where Team A has a fair shot and Team B, Team X, Y, and Z are the exact same level. That's never going to happen. This isn't the NFL.
No. Speaking of NFL, I'm just trying to transition this. Nebraska football lineage. Nebraska football lineage, NFL. Dylan Raiola.
There it is.
Got some Nebraska football lineage. And here's I always pay attention to the tea leaves with regards to quarterback battles. And here's how you know. Okay. They threw that man up in front of the media today. Did you see this?
Oh, a freshman in front of the media?
Freshman in front of the media. Now, here's what they did. I don't know if they did it before or after, but they snuck the old head up first. The old head got 8.5 minutes, and then the young cat got 9 minutes. But the young cat was up there. Okay. Separate interviews, too. They didn't do it like Arkansas. Arkansas set all three competing guys at the desk together and had the media ask all of them questions. Dylan had his podium and then did his thing, and then the other guy came in and did his thing. But I just don't see any way that Nebraska isn't starting Dylan Raiola week 1, game 1. I just based off all the things we're kind of hearing and seeing this spring and moving forward.
Dylan Raiola could be the second or third best quarterback on that roster, and you'd have to start him week 1.
You think so?
The amount of money you put up for him, supposedly, and the amount of hype that it's created around your team to let him sit on the bench for a year and possibly even make fans worry about him going elsewhere, you can't do that if you're if you're Nebraska. Like that's you have to be like, you went out and got this kid, go out and live or die by him. If he comes out and he stinks, hey, he's a freshman, he's learning, but we'll get him there. Like Matt Rule did so much to go and get this guy.
Yeah.
You have to let him succeed or fail. Because the adverse of that is you don't play him and say things go wrong. Well, why isn't Dylan Raiola played? And then automatically you can't start Dylan Raiola now, because if he comes in and he's good, it's what took you so long to realize this.
Yeah, and I think you have such a long leash if you're Matt Rule. At Nebraska, they already think they got a head football coach.
Yeah.
Like, he won 7 games last year. 6?
They were 500, I think.
Okay, so 6 or 7 games
5 and
last
7
year.
maybe. Let me check.
And everybody and their mama out there in Cornhusker land thinks they got a head football coach. And by the way, they do. I think Matt Rule is a guy. Okay, so he's got a tremendously
5 and
long,
7.
Yeah, 5 and 7. He's got a really, really long leash. And if he went 5 and 7 this year with a freshman quarterback, ain't nobody gonna bat an eye out there. Like, that's okay as long as it's fun.
Yeah,
I think they're fun. They're going to be fun.
Exactly. You can't go 5 and 7 with the 5-star that you put everything up in the world for on the bench. He's got to start.
You think he's ever going to live down the poem? Because our chat's not letting it happen ever.
If he wins a natty, he'll live it down.
You think so?
Yeah.
I think he doubles down if he wins a natty and writes a natty poem.
Because, I mean, like...
A little natty poem? That'd be dope.
If you
win a natty, write a poem.
I mean, that'd be pretty gangster.
Shit would break the internet.
It'd be gangster, honestly. Like, who's a player that's kind of done something to live down something in the past that they were kind of...
I don't know. No, Quinn. For me, Quinn Ewers in the kombucha.
Yeah.
Quinn Ewers gave up an opportunity to chase a high school state title after losing a state title to Cade Klubnik for some kombucha money. That was crazy to me.
Yeah.
And here we are. He gonna be an NFL football player
for sure. Might be the second or third QB taken next year.
Probably will be. I don't think it might be. I think it will be, unless he fractures his shoulder again or something crazy like that.
Can't have that.
So there's that. All right. Before we go into our local hour, I want to ask you this: are you buying it?
Well, what is it I'm buying?
Are you buying this Virginia Tech stuff?
I don't know, man. Like, what are you trying to sell me on Virginia Tech? Are they a top 25 team? Or?
No. Here you go. Greg McElroy was asked for a surprise college football playoff contender, Virginia Tech.
Sell it. I'm selling that. I'm sorry.
I don't know, man. They got to return a quarterback. That's the whole thing. That this Kyron Jones, I think it's Kyron Jones. I got to look it up. Will you look up Virginia Tech starting quarterback for me?
Yeah.
The whole idea is that he's coming back, so they're going to have a good offense next year. They scored over 30 points in like 9 football games last year.
It said Grant Wells, but that was 2022.
This is great content.
It might be. 2023.
No, buddy. They have a guy that wears number 1. He was a dude last year. He's like 6'3", 240 pounds, and has a chooch on him. I forget his name.
I don't know. Either way, I Virginia Tech as a playoff team, I'm not buying it. Just because, like, great, you have a returning quarterback. There's 30 other schools in the NCAA that have returning quarterbacks that have more talented rosters than you.
Kyron Drones.
Oh,
I said
okay.
Kyron Jones. Kyron Drones is their quarterback. And like I said, he is a guy. All right. Redshirt, junior, transfer. And look, dude, I'm looking at their roster now. And you know what I don't see? I don't see transfers. I don't see new faces. I don't see holes that they had to plug. I see a bunch of guys returning to a roster that was 7-5 last year. Now, are they 9-3 this year off of a 7-5 year last year, or are they 11-1 at potential ACC contenders now?
Are you trying to say you're buying it?
No, I'm just saying it's refreshing to pull up one of these damn R-lads and not see a bad or a mediocre football team out here just chopping shop on their whole roster.
Yeah.
Because every other team I pull up is just orange, which indicates he just got here. And that's not one of these rosters. So that's important to me. In a day and age in college football where everybody's got freaking revolving doors, Virginia Tech doesn't. So from a cultural standpoint, I'm buying.
Shout out.
Hey, into our local hour. We'll see you in about 45 seconds.
Welcome into Talk the Dog, the show where we find a bone to pick and a take to give. These are not hot takes. These is dog takes. Can I talk that dog?
What's up? You really like that?
Let's shut up and grind some tape.
Welcome back into our local hour. I'm your host, Brooks Austin. What's up with you? Make sure you hit that thumbs up button if you haven't already. This is Talk That Dog, so we finna talk that dog. The biggest news today, Matt Zollers. I want to read you a quote. It doesn't impact who you go after. It impacts who you land. Who said that?
My immediate guess would be Kirby Smart.
Close enough. Yours truly said that Tuesday night on this broadcast, talking about name, image, and likeness, saying, hey, it doesn't change your board. It's not changing what you look at. It doesn't change who you evaluate. It doesn't change who you pursue. It damn sure will change who you land, right? That's exactly what we saw today when Zollers heads up to Missouri. Now, look, last night, hitting the source board, saying, bro, what are we thinking? What's happening? What's happening? Who's it going to be? Everybody I talked to from Georgia yesterday thought it was going to be them. Think it's us, wouldn't bet on it. Think it's us, wouldn't bet on it. This is the kind of response I got over and over again. But do indeed think it's us. It wasn't y'all. All right. But I left it out there as a potential on all of our reporting over on patreon.com/Brooks Austin. Left it out there as a possibility. Hey, they think y'all think it's you. At least a small portion of you do. There's a tidgeon in your gut thinking y'all got this one. All right. But they knew what the deal was. They knew what the offer was. And here's the deal at Georgia. You know for a fact, I'm telling you that right now, for a fact, moving forward, if a player comes to Georgia at that position, at quarterback, presume that they are taking a pay cut. Presume that they came to Georgia at a lesser dollar figure than elsewhere because you just don't spend it. You don't spend it like everybody else. And we talked about it in the local hour, a willingness versus an ability. I know. Matter of fact, I think you have the ability to spend with anybody in this sport, not named Tennessee, USC, Texas, or Ohio State. Okay. Those 4 programs got billionaire money that you just don't have. Okay. Whether it's Victoria's Secret, whether it's the Fortune 500 companies out there in LA, whether it's the multiple billionaire families that bitch and moan and argue and spend money over who's the biggest booster at Texas, you just don't have it like that. Okay. So if you ever get in bidding wars with them, you're just never going to win, even if you tried. However, there is an ability at Georgia There is not a willingness. There is no willingness right now to reset markets or pay people out of pocket or go outlandish to land a kid. There's just not an incentive to do so right now unless they know for a fact that guy is never going to miss. Ever, ever, ever. I guarantee you they went outside of their quote-unquote comfort zone with some of their late additions last class. You don't have to name names. Y'all see it, right? I guarantee you they went out of their comfort zone last minute to make sure things happen. I know that there was a last-minute push for Mike Matthews last class. There is a willingness to do so every once in a while. There is not a willingness to do so all of the time. So it doesn't impact who you go after. It will certainly impact who you get. And I believe that was the most and largest contributing factor to what happened today with Matt Zollers. Welcome into our local hour.
Yeah, I mean, like we said at the start of the show last hour, teams are going to spend a certain amount of money on players that other teams are just not going to be willing to pay for, and you're going to see other guys go elsewhere because of that. You're going to see 4-star quarterbacks go to the Missouris and other schools of the world because that's just the age of college football that you're in. Teams are going to pony up more for others than more than other schools are going to be willing to do so.
The good news for Georgia, obviously, this is a miss. I mean, without a doubt, this was a kid that they wanted. This is a kid that they were willing to take, and I don't know what their board is, Kirby, but here's the reality, right? They were willing to take Zollers today to sacrifice Julian Lewis tomorrow.
Right.
So is it safe to assume that they had a higher grade on Zollers, or is it safe to assume that they were just willing to take whoever was going to be taken in that discussion between those two? Because they've done this before, right? I think back to the 2021 signing class when Caleb Williams and Brock Vandegrift both wanted to be a Georgia Bulldog. They also simultaneously both wanted to be Oklahoma Sooners, but they both wanted to be a Georgia Bulldog. And from my understanding, the conversation was had, whoever comes in first is our guy. We love you both. We're not going to rank one of you higher than the other. But there is a time, kind of sensitive portion of this. Whoever says they calls and says they want in, we'll take. We're not going to say no, we have to wait on the other guy. So I think this was Zollers forcing Georgia's hand, if it was going to be them, that, all right, it's going to be me, and we're there. Because he told media here in this area that they were only going to take one. If it was him, it was only going to be him.
Right. And I think that they probably also went after Zollers because of the guarantee of that. Zollers at the time wasn't committed, whereas Juju Lewis is committed to USC. If you put all your baskets in going out and getting a guy who's already committed to a school, and then Zollers goes elsewhere, and then say, God forbid, you aren't able to flip Juju Lewis, you don't really have a quarterback in that 2025 class, even though they have a third option that they would likely go to. But going from 1A, 1B to 2 is certainly not something you'd want to do. So I think that the security of pursuing Zollers and having that guarantee of, okay, we're going to get a 2025 quarterback, obviously it's not there now, but I think that's why they probably shifted their attention more to him.
Yeah, and I think it also gets to a point where you don't tell the guy no, Right. And however, they have in classes before, if a guy calls and says, I want to be a Georgia football player, I want to be a Georgia commit, they'll say, okay. Or they'll say, well, let's just hold off on that. If they don't want to, let's just move that date a little bit. You ever seen these kids that set commitment dates and then they're like, I'm going to push it back.
Right.
Okay. Well, grandmama's birthday was last month when you were supposed to commit. So is the next date that much more important? Because the last one was pretty important. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That happens every once in a while. Obviously, everybody wants to know next, and I think the answers are pretty repetitive at this point. What's next for Georgia? What happens next for Georgia? We talked about the loss Penn State have. They're cooked. They seem to be cooked. They're playing catch up. They're going to have to take somebody that they ultimately didn't want or ultimately weren't really recruiting at that high of a level.
Yeah.
Not necessarily the case for Georgia. Everybody knows the three options now, right? It's you go after Julian Lewis as hard as you possibly can to flip that, and we'll talk about that, I would imagine, here in just a second. Ryan Montgomery is available at any point, I would imagine. The kid out of Findlay, Ohio, he's seriously looking at Florida. He's seriously looking at South Carolina, but he's seriously looking at the University of Georgia. That kid loves Georgia from everything I've heard and understand. And then there's the in-state product that I don't know if other people are talking about. I don't read other folks, but we have it on good authority that they've been recruiting and evaluating Luke Nickel for an extensive period of time at this point. that one's hey, if we got to go work to flip that one, we're going to go work to flip that one as hard as we need to if it comes to that. So those are kind of your 3 plans now. It's plan A, get your butt into the Julian Lewis sweepstakes.
So I know that Julian Lewis, obviously, they're going to try to flip him. Is there any hopes that you can still pursue Zollers and flip him as well, or is that he committed to Missouri, he's off the table?
Yeah, dude, it sounds like, I mean, it's hard enough to flip commitments anyways, especially particularly at the quarterback position. Really hard to flip NIL commitments or NIL package commitments.
Yeah.
You have to go above and beyond whatever's there. Also, Zollers strikes me out of everything that I heard, even though it's very much like a rushed decision, it felt like for me. He's only taken one official visit. He's going to Missouri, and he's not taking another one. If we find out that he's taking another official visit, then you can bet that that's free game. You know what I'm saying?
Huh.
If he has been on the record saying, I took all these unofficial visits, I'm only taking one OV, and the OV is going to be to where I commit, and he committed to Missouri today. So there's that. Now, let's talk about the Julian Lewis opportunities here. I don't know what it is. I think I know. But I don't know what it is about the Julian Lewis recruitment from a Georgia's fan perspective. I run a pretty large forum. Okay, it's not the largest forum, I don't believe, in the Georgia space, but it is a large forum. So I get a very well thought out and obvious and large sample size of this fan base. What you guys think, how y'all respond, what y'all react, what y'all think about individual players, your chances. I also know that I run a forum that has a bunch of people in it that probably subscribe to other forums. I understand that. And I'm going to tell you what, every time Julian Lewis's name gets brought up, the number one thing I hear from Georgia fans is, we won't be able to afford it. Can't afford it. Not going to be able to do it. He's an NIL play. He's an NIL play. Says who? Who have you heard that from? That hasn't been his camp. His camp has been very forthcoming about the fact that they understand. They know the deal at Georgia. If we go to the University of Georgia, if we flip from USC to Georgia, it will not be because of money. It will be because of every other reason to go to the University of Georgia. And there's a lot of them, right? By the way, at Georgia, if you're an in-state kid, if you're Julian Lewis, a name that has been known around here since you were in 8th grade, 7th grade, okay, you might not need as much pay for play from the collective as, say, you know, like a guy who isn't a 5-star and a guy who doesn't have millions and millions of impressions everywhere he goes, right? You might be able to make actual legitimate money, you know, like he is right now. He's making legitimate money right now doing legitimate business stuff. He has actual advertisers that want to get involved with him because he's a real big name. So when you do that at this place and at the University of Georgia under the brand, obviously you say the same stuff at USC. I get that. But all I'm trying to say is there is a meeting in the middle that is available there that I don't think a lot of people open themselves to the opportunity for. Yes, if Julian Lewis goes to Georgia, it will be for a pay cut. Yes, Julian Lewis is open to the idea that might be something that they're willing to do. So I just don't understand where this narrative comes from.
I think it's just because the stigma around 5-star quarterbacks is that, hey, you got to break the bank for these guys. Like, you have to back up the Brinks truck. You have to be willing to extend yourself NIL-wise, just because we've seen it so many times in the past. We just saw it today, it seems like, with Zollers. Like, Missouri's out here bragging about, hey, we've got a really good NIL collective that was able to go and make this happen. So I think that's kind of why when you see these high-profile quarterbacks, you automatically think, oh, wow, he's going to cost a lot, whereas that might not be the case with Juju Lewis.
And by the way, anybody trying to flip Juju Lewis right now will be, I mean, I promise you, for that player, no one's going to be paying more money or putting together a better package than USC. You just won't do it. I don't believe so. Okay, it's not across the board, but at that university with that head coach and Lincoln Riley, yeah, they'll find a way to make sure that Julian Lewis sticks around there. It won't be any NIL purposes, but I think Georgia. It sucks that you lost Zollers today. It's Zollers, by the way. It's not Zollers.
Oh, damn. Might be.
Yeah. Not worth talking about. Coach opened up his press conference today with the correct pronunciation of the school and Matt Zollers' name. Which Coach. I just mispronounced again. Zollers. Zollers.
Think Frederick Zoller from
correct. No, he said think baller. Think baller.
Well, that too. You could do Frederick Zoller from Inglourious Bastards.
Yeah, so Zollers gone. But first world problems, dude. Worst case scenario, Georgia ends up with Ryan Montgomery, which is not a bad situation.
Oh no.
It's I know, right? oh dang. The 6'4", 225-pound 4-star from Ohio is coming down here. Oh shucks.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
I mean that will be the attitude of some players.
You're damn right. You're damn right. There will be some fans out there that are like, well, damn, Bobo struck out on so and so, Bobo this, Bobo that. Yeah, you know, not a bad situation that Georgia's in right now. Speaking of being not in a bad situation, was there any way in hell some of these new hires at the University of Georgia weren't going to have great springs, great summers, and great recruiting cycles?
I mean, I feel like there's an avenue for it, but it also, like, yeah, you expect them to succeed because just the amount of talent that's in the rooms that they adopted, but it seems like we've been hearing some really good things out of these new hires. I mean, the wide receiver room, all the intel we're ever hearing is, hey, this is the best wide receiver room Georgia's had. The running back room, like, you lose Del McGee, that's huge, but also, like, hey, this is the deepest the running back room's ever been. Your DBs are looking elite. Like, 3 months ago, you didn't know who your corner was, and now it seems like you've got 4 viable options at it. And oh, by the way, we moved one of the guys to star, it seems like, or we're giving him reps at it. So, like, it seems like all the new hires are doing great. Now, the room to fail was probably not that big because it's like you're adopting a room with a bunch of 4 and 5 stars. But the fact that things are getting better, it seems, or at least at the very least maintaining the success you had, that's great.
I mean, like, I think the guy who had the biggest coaching job to do was probably James Coley, because James Coley not only had to get to know a whole entire new room, he had to upload basically an entirely new room. Okay, he's got 3 transfers coming in, freshman in Zacoby White and Nitro Tuggle in there as well. So that's 5 new faces to the program that you're going to have to upload and get caught up on the system. And that was something we heard this weekend about not being as clean as possible.
Right. And oh, by the way, you lost 2 of your biggest producers in the wide receiver room from last year. Ladd and Marcus Jones and Jackson aren't there anymore. So you're essentially starting from scratch in that wide receiver room.
No, you were. Like, I mean, even from a recruiting standpoint as well.
Like, you've got guys that have been on the team for a while. You've got your Arian Smiths, your Dom Lovitz, your Rara Thomases, but the big heavy hitters that you had in 2023 are no longer there. Well,
it's just people are always like, I guess some people are like, people don't dislike Bobo. Everyone knows Bobo's good. And then I look in the chat. It's like, can't win the game.
What do you mean, bro?
Okay.
I don't think
the wide receiver room had to be uploaded. Thought Josh Crawford was going to have a big change or a big transition from being a wide receivers coach and kind of like a passing game coordinator his first 2 or 3 years in college football to flip it over to the running back position. But he's got an extremely talented room. Yeah, like
you would have to have probably a astronomically bad coaching job to make that room look bad, especially at the running back room where it's a fairly simple room. It's not the quarterback room. It's not the wide receiver room. Like, it's a simpler room to understand. And running back is a simpler position. Let's just be fair. Like, and the amount of talent that you have in that room, like, it's going to be hard to mess it up.
Travaris Robinson, I think, he had no transition except for a change in logo, basically. It went from speaking the same defense to coming over here speaking the same defense.
Yeah, I mean, you run the 4-2-5 when essentially, like, you go from Caleb Downs to Malachi Starks. Like, you're not having a huge drop off in talent here, not at all.
And you're like 3 years removed from being in a Muschamps room, anyways. So, like,
exactly.
You know, it's funny. I heard Ja'Cory Thomas say they're the same exact person.
Muschamp and T-Rob?
Muschamp and T-Rob are the same exact person instead of like clones.
It's kind of scary, actually.
They even talk shit the same way. They coach the same way. They're agitators the same way. Muschamp's one of the biggest agitators on the staff. He just likes to.
Oh yeah.
Just likes to poke people. They're both hysterical. Apparently, they have the same sense of humor as well. Just identical human beings that don't look identical.
Yeah.
So
slight difference.
And then Dante, that boy Dante out there wearing a helmet.
Mr. Helmet.
Sounds like he is a watch me. It's weird to hear this from college coaches. Not weird, it's just new. New is not weird, Brooks. It's new to hear a college football player tell me that coach does the drill first, shows us what he wants, and then we go do it.
That takes me back to like little league almost.
Or like middle school, yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm this type of coach. I show before as I teach.
Yeah.
Because I feel like our kids are such visual learners. Especially nowadays.
Well, I mean, you can be a visual learner and an auditory learner because you're explaining it while you're also at the same point acting it out. So
I just don't think kids nowadays have as much ability. I don't know, get off my lawn. Here we go. I don't think kids nowadays have an ability to be auditory listeners as much as they are visual learners. Because auditorial learners. Because here's why. We have an entire generation, myself included. If you want to learn how to do something, you just go to YouTube and watch somebody do it.
Right.
And then you take mental notes and then you go do it yourself. So this style of coaching makes sense. You know, we got a generation of people who watch to learn. So let me go do it myself and teach them how to do it. A lot of these guys have a lot of room to make up on the recruiting trail, this class in particular, except for the running back coach. He's already got one commit in Bo Walker. Not Bo Walker. Yeah, Bo Walker.
Bo Walker, yeah.
Bo Jackson's the cat we watched the other night from Ohio. Still got some work to do. Sounds like Crawford is, and here's, I don't know this for a fact, but here's how I know this. I ain't heard a lot about Ousmane Kromah. I ain't heard a lot about him, okay, from the Georgia perspective, okay, until about 2 months ago. Till about 2 months ago when they got a new running backs coach, okay, that was at Georgia Tech, and now all of a sudden I'm starting to hear Ousmane Kromah's name again. So I think I have a good inclination of who is a proponent of Ousmane Kromah. Josh Crawford. Sounds like he is pushing the Ousmane Kromah train. It's great. It's a great high school football player in the state of Georgia. I see Phil Maffa. That's who I see. I see Phil Maffa. I see
solid back.
Give him 20 carries. Hopefully get you a $110. That's what I see. I don't see 85-yard gasser, but that's okay. You need both at the University of Georgia.
$110 on 20 carries. I think if I take a $110 on 20 carries.
But you got to give them the 20 carries.
That's not going to happen at Georgia. I'll tell you.
No, it is not.
Who's the last Georgia running back to have 100 rushing yards in a game? It didn't happen in 2023.
It happened last year. Kendall did it last year.
Yeah, it did. You're right.
Yeah. No,
he was gashing.
The real question is, when was the last time a Georgia running back had 20 totes in a singular game?
Had to have been.
That's the real question.
Probably like 2018 or 19.
It's been a while.
DeAndre Swift was there.
Maybe. I don't know if Swift ever got 20 touches.
It's gonna eat at me. I got to look that up now.
All right, you look that up. But yeah, that's a room whose running back or the board has kind of changed a little bit in terms of recruiting. Don't think the same could be said about the DB room. Here's how they recruit DBs at Georgia. Are you big, tall, fast? That's it. Give me the biggest, tallest, fastest joker in the world, and we'll take him. You know how I know? They took Kyron Jones, and they turned him into exactly that. Kyron Jones was a running back in high school. He's 6'2", he's 200 pounds, and he ran 10.3 in the 100. And they were like, hey, we can make that guy a DB. What you got?
He had 25 carries against Florida in 2019 and 21 against Kentucky in 2019. That was the that disgusting 21-0 win. So
yeah, slobber knocker.
Yeah, but I think he might be the last one because I don't know who would have done it in 2020.
Kenny wouldn't have done it. James wouldn't have done it.
Zamir wouldn't have done it.
I think Zamir's highest career carry game is actually against Baylor in the bowl game.
Yeah.
Yeah, like 140 in that football game, I think.
I'll look that up now.
So, yeah, it's been a while since they've had this, like, workhorse bell cow back.
And honestly, I don't know if they ever will.
Again.
I think those days are over for Georgia. One, because I think the value of recruiting the running back position at Georgia is, hey, you can come here and you're going to have so much tread left on your tires by the time you leave. One, and two, you're going to be a highly respected prospect. Like, you come from Georgia and you play as a running back and you win a lot of games here and you put up big names, your name is instantly recognizable in the draft class. And oh, by the way, you're not going to have more than 130 touches in your career here, which is kind of an incentive because running backs don't really care about touches, I've learned in college. Like, it's more about staying healthy, I think, is more important. And Georgia does a great job of keeping their backs healthy.
It's more about staying healthy and putting good tape out, right? Letting the NFL know that you're a guy. But no, I don't know. You're right. I don't know if the days of having a 25 tote guy, like, hey, totes 1 through 10 are okay. We just got to get him 1 through 10 so he can have 10 through 15, 10 through 17. That back just can't exist nowadays, I don't believe.
Yeah, so Zamir had 26 carries against Kentucky in 2020.
Okay.
So it happens every now and then. But
when they tote the ball 48 times in a game.
Yeah, it essentially happens when it's like, we have no passing game. We're just going to hand the ball off to one guy and hope we get something out.
Which hasn't happened in 2 years, 3 years at Georgia.
Hasn't
2
happened
and a half.
Hasn't happened since COVID.
2021. There was times in 2021 where they weren't like leaning on the pass game.
Yeah, that Arkansas game, they definitely.
Yeah,
but I don't know.
9 for 11 in that.
Yeah,
Arkansas
but I don't know if that was out of like we don't have a passing.
No, they're just beating the shit out.
Yeah,
of
as much as it was like, hey, if you're gonna line up 3 down the entire game, we'll just run the ball. It's fine.
If you're not gonna get the ball past midfield until midway through the fourth quarter, we'll just run the ball. That's basically how it was. All right, so obviously there is a NCAA portal transfer window coming up here in just 9 days, 10 days, 11 days. April 15th, I think, is when that sucker opens up. That is the Monday following G-Day. Okay. And here's what I'll tell you from a what are you going to add perspective? What are you going to try to add perspective? I think you're going to do 2 things. One, you're going to absolutely, with a fine-tooth comb, okay, go through the quarterback market. You're going to go through that quarterback portal as hard as you possibly can. In fact, I bet right now, I would venture to bet right now, there are people in the Georgia's building whose sole job it is right now is to evaluate other quarterback competitions. Who's winning what where? All right, who's winning what where, so we can be prepared for who hits the portal or who might want to hit the portal, that kind of thing. All right, so that's going on right now at the quarterback position. You will, between these words being spoken and August, you will seek out a transfer quarterback. And in December, if you haven't gotten him by then, I guarantee you he's on the roster in December. You will go get another arm via the transfer portal at some point. Okay, Kirby Smart has been very, very upfront and honest about his quarterback scholarship count right now. He's only at 3. By January, he will be at 2, plus whatever guy they get in 2025. All right, so that would be back to 3. He's being very open about wanting to be at 4. He's not at 4 right now. I bet he tries to get to 4 by the end of, before the start of next year. However, he's not just going to take some slappy, just take some slappy, okay? Whoever they take, they think might have an opportunity to compete for the job at some point down the road. So that is what's going to happen, I imagine, at that position. Now, I told you it's one of 2 things. The other thing, best player available. If somebody good hits that portal, any position, defensive tackle, they wouldn't mind another edge rusher, believe it or not. Whether it be a tight end, a wide receiver, a ball catcher, whatever. If there is a great football player they think can manage to make an impact on their roster come August, they will go get that sucker, okay? So those are the 2 things I'd be looking for in terms of additions. They will be looking for some type of quarterback, and they will be looking for the best player available in the transfer portal this spring. So that's kind of what's going on. Now, what could they lose? All right, I think that's what a lot of people are also thinking about. What potential losses could come via the transfer portal this spring? And I don't want to do names. So this is a really delicate conversation, and we talked about it pre-show. Don't really know how we're going to do it. So
right.
I think the best way to do this is to just go through the roster and be very honest about what looks to be a very crowded room where there's not a lot of air to breathe. I say that about the jack position all the time, outside linebacker.
Yeah, well, it's one spot on the field that really you only rotate 2 guys at most.
Historically.
Yeah. And I think we also should preface this with there's going to be exits.
Yeah.
Like, so don't wake up Monday and you see, oh my God, we've had 4 guys hit the portal. What's going on here? Like, no, this is what you have to have happen. This is how college football works now, where you're going to see guys, big name guys, talented recruits, some may even possibly like have playing time in 2024, hit the portal. So I think that's important to say to the audience, like, hey, this is going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, what you also, I think at Georgia, unless it's a massive name, okay, that's getting picked off your roster, what you have to understand about Georgia is that your roster, it's hysterical. Have you ever watched it pregame? You ever watched what opposing coaches do pregame?
I don't watch the opposing coaches pregame.
Bro, opposing coaches are at the 50 the whole time, and the whole roster or the whole coaching staff's like this. Their team's back here warming up. The whole coaching staff's like this, watching Georgia's team warm up, just watching them, staring at them. Hey, I like that guy. And they're sitting there talking to each other. And they're like, hey, you know what they're doing?
Scouting.
They're scouting. They're scouting to see who they can poach. It's everybody. It's crazy. It's to an extent that they don't even hide it, man. They sit there every single pregame. Next year, Georgia fans, watch it. Okay, go to a game, get there early, and watch the opposing coaches. This is unlike anything I've ever seen. Normally, you got a couple guys up in the box trying to see, hey, what is their opening formation? Like we did in high school. Hey, they actually are running the triple today like we thought they were. Hey, they're actually, they open with some jet sweep stuff, whatever. You're trying to pick up whatever inklings you can. No. This is a full, in-depth, 30-minute viewing period of Georgia's roster. And what they're looking at is what backups, what guy is not playing that looks like he could come play for me. And I'm going to tell you, at a lot of these SEC rosters, there's a whole bunch of them jokers on Georgia's roster that could come play for them right now.
Right. So what do you think is the room that's probably, for lack of a better term, the deepest, where it's like they have the most players, where it's like not all these guys are going to be out on the field?
I wrote down 4 position groups, starting with interior defensive line.
Yep.
Everyone knows the deal. Warren Brinson and Nazir Stackhouse came back this year, okay, but they also added Xavier McLeod, okay, to that roster for the first time pronouncing his name correctly. But there's a lot of, names and bodies in that room that are still there and still need to get some growth, right? It's guys like Kristen Miller, Jordan Hall. There's JJE just got there as well. Jamal Jarrett's in that mix as well. So there's a bunch of names, plus Jordan Thomas, the freshman that's already on campus, plus Nnamdi Agboko, who's also on campus. Right. So there's a bunch of interior defensive linemen that they really only play 2 of them at a time. Okay, so there's a bunch there. The same could be said about outside linebacker, right? Chaz Chambliss. Michael just bumped over into that room. You got Gabe Harris mix and matching between defensive end and outside linebacker. There's, Salmon Pimba, Damon Wilson, Quintavious Johnson just got there as well. CJ Madden got processed last portal cycle. So there are some names in that room, again, at a position that really only plays like 4 or 5 guys during the day, right? Oh, and by the way, Jalen Walker's got to get some snaps because he's one of our best pass rushers on obvious passing downs. So that's a thick room when I look at it. Hey, by the way, running back, super thick, almost as thick as the mucus piled up in your nose right now.
It's killing you, bro.
Thick, okay? Flip him upside down, pour concrete into his nostrils. Really, really thick right now at the running back room. And by the way, Nate Frazier shows up this summer, and he's a dog. Okay, so that room is really, really thick. And then you look at the wide receiver position, man. There's a bunch of names in that room, right? You just brought in 3 transfers. Colby Young, Michael Jackson, London Humphreys. Those guys are in the mix, right? You got all the old heads, Dylan Bell, Arian Smith. Help me out here. I'm forgetting some names here. Ra Thomas, Dominic Lovett, right? Arian Smith, I think I already said. Anthony Evans still in the mix there as well. And then Tyler Williams. So there is a lot of names in there. By the way, I spoke to an SEC coach about a week ago. And it was, hey, who ain't happy up there? Click. I ain't answering that call. I ain't answering that question. No, says I. No, says I. That will not be me. But it may or may not have been an SEC, position coach that may or may not coach one of these positions that is super, super thick at the University of Georgia. So I promise you there will be some poaching. I can almost guarantee, based off everything that I've spoken to, they feel solid about their top 40.
Right.
They feel really, really solid about the work that they've done with the top 40 in this roster.
Do you think that the DB room is susceptible to this? Because we've kind of talked about how there's 4 or 5 corners that are kind of battling for that spot. Do you think that room might thin out when the spring ends? I
think Georgia got saved an impactful corner from hitting the portal by Jonel Aguero not necessarily being exactly ready to play at star.
Right, by not locking down the star spot, because now
Dalen Everett getting in there at corner might keep one of Daniel Harris or Julian Humphreys.
Do you think that was that
wasn't planned? They hoped and were optimistic that Jonel was every bit of what they thought he was coming out of high school. And look, I'm tired of dodging around it. Okay, so I'm just gonna talk about it. He is extremely explosive. But he's slow to react and he's slow to pick up the playbook right now. I can't do nothing with 4.28 speed, 4.31 speed, 4.35 speed, whatever it is in a 6'1", 200-pound package if you're late to move. If you're late to react, it doesn't matter. None of the rest matters. So there is I don't want people to hear that and immediately mark him out. He's going to play. He's going to start against Clemson. I have a good feeling about that. They are going to see if it will inevitably click for him because God knows the physical talent's there. But the fact that they're already rotating in Dalen, and via that happening, the other guys are getting more and more reps at corner. I think they have a good chance to hold on to both Julian and Daniel, no matter how the position battle strikes out.
I guess that's a silver lining in that. Obviously, it sucks to hear about Janelle because he is such a talented player, not being able to
look, it could click. It very well could click, man. It's still very early in that football career for him. Kirby said this the other day. I feel like nowadays everyone just expects guys to play immediately. Well, it's not how this works. Normally how this works is your freshman year, you don't do shit. Like you ain't got a shot of getting on the field.
Unless you're sophomore year, Malachi Starks.
Yeah, unless you're that. But normally you're just drinking from a fire hose your first year. Your second year, you might be able to compete for a job. Your third year, you win a job and you're ready to play. That's normally how this works for 90% of great football players, okay? The supreme of the supreme get out there and figure it out from an early on perspective. But the real of the real, the guts and core of your roster, they're year 3 blossoming guys, all right? So the fact that Jonel Aguero is not blossoming to everything that I included thought he was going to be coming out of high school, okay? That does not mean you immediately chop him up as a foregone conclusion.
Or a bust.
Yeah, or a bust. It's something that could very well pop and probably will given time, okay? They just don't have the ability to give it time right now, particularly on 3rd and long.
That's fine.
Yeah, but first down, he gonna stick somebody. This might be one of the hardest hitters that has played at Star in Georgia, recent history.
That's harder than David Daniel.
Well, he never played Star. He played safety.
Yeah, but that deep back end,
I would put him up there. I don't think anybody sticks like this except for maybe Bull and Richard. Richard would stick his nose in there and put his body on the line and light somebody up. But David Daniel's a torpedo, bro. That's a torpedo. Just straight at
head down and everything, baby.
Oh, man. If I could put money on it right now, I'd put $100,000. I don't have $100,000, so let's call it 100. I'd put $100 on David Daniel getting a targeting penalty this year, guaranteed. If he gets playing time, like real run, guaranteed targeting penalty. Just a head first joker, man.
Sometimes you gotta let him know.
Hey, sometimes you gotta let it eat. What else we got? We got anything else?
I mean, we can talk for another 20 minutes. Like,
what do you want to talk about?
What is something?
We got a bunch of people watching.
We do have a bunch of people watching.
Should we Q&A it? We haven't Q&A in a while.
We haven't.
Hey, start firing off some Q&A. We'll start riffing while you guys get in there. So start asking some questions.
First one I'll go with is, what are you going to look for most on G-Day? Because last year it was kind of like how's Carson Beck and Brock Vandegrift looking? It was always the quarterback battle. Like, we feel like that's settled this year. What's the position battle you're kind of watch out for this year?
Oh, it ain't a position battle. It's a player. I want to watch Gunnar Stockton. I want to see. I gave a little Discord nug to folks the other day. He's had a great couple of days of practice. A week in a row of really, really good practice from what I've heard. I forgot to tell people, Aaron Murray flaked again. So, have I told you this?
No, you didn't.
Yeah, Murray flaked on me again. We were scheduled for August 12th. I called him to tell him I got a field for him. April 12th. I called him to tell him I got a field for him, or texted him to tell him I got a field for him, and some wide receivers. And, 6 o'clock Friday night. And he hit me back with, I forgot that I had already booked the date. We already have another event going on. So he double booked himself. So now he's canceled for the 3rd time, because we were supposed to go down in Miami. He bailed on me then. Said his wife wanted him to spend time with her. Reasonable.
Logical, yeah.
Logical, reasonable, got it. Even though we agreed to do it, I brought camera equipment. I flew a cameraman down, and I went through security with NFL footballs and my high school balls. So didn't mind, doing all that, but flaked on me down there in Miami for good purposes. We were supposed to do something in mid-February. He said that wasn't close enough to G-Day and didn't have enough hype, and he needed 2 months to train. So that's why he bailed on me then. He bailed on me this time just because, he double booked himself.
Prior arrangements
with the company that he owns. So I don't know how you forget that one. And the company, by the way, that's also going to be doing this event with us, Players Lounge. I don't know how you do this. And he said it was a byproduct of working too many jobs. And I told him, I think it's just a byproduct of you being a bad planner. Here we go. We got some questions loading up. But yeah, Murray flaked again. Why is Aaron Murray so scared? I don't know. He shouldn't be. I'm going to tell you what. I can throw it as well as anybody. Took some 3 and 5 step drops yesterday.
Not the best?
It changes a lot. It definitely changes a lot. But, I still hit. I still threw as well as I possibly could, but definitely something I have to get a lot more used to.
You tried your best.
Huh?
You tried your best. That's all that matters.
Did. Has KJ put weight on since high school? Yeah, I'd say about 5 to 7 pounds. Nothing crazy. Still looks huge, man. Looks way bigger than I thought he was going to on college fields. That's always the thing you never really know until you see it, is how is this guy going to look physically on the next level. He was holy shit, who's that guy when I walked out there the first day of practice.
Did you show the audio clip with the rest of the people?
No, it was a little sus. I think I just played it for you guys.
Yeah, it was. I mean, you were like, oh my God, who is that?
Like, oh,
he's beautiful.
Yeah, he is fucking beautiful. Who is that?
Yeah.
Who is number 4? Who is number 4?
That's KJ?
That's KJ?
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was a little sus. But you know how I be around the football players, man. I be getting excited about them long hammies and them big buttocks.
Who's the most, doesn't have to be a Georgia player, doesn't have to be.
Are you reading these off the chat?
I can. Do you want me to?
Yeah, they're putting them in there, so let's get them.
I had my agenda for, but yeah. Which non-top 100 player will be a top 50 player in the 2026 class?
What?
So I'm guessing like someone who's on the outside of the 2026 class who's going to end up moving into a top 50 spot when they become.
I don't even see that one in the chat.
That is from Clay Williams.
Reread it to me.
Which non-top 100 player will be a top 50 player in the 2026 class?
I don't know how to answer that one, Clay. I'm going to be honest with you. That takes a lot of projection for me in 2026. So just an underrated kid right now?
Yeah.
Or
who's going to get the biggest bump when they do commit?
Oh, that's a good one. It's too late or it's too early in 2026. I got one for you in 2025. You ready? I got a name for you. Georgia fans need to pay attention to this name right here. Okay. This cat's out of New Jersey. His name is, I'm going to crush his last name. Darren Inking Nagbon.
Inca what?
Ikinnagbon. Ikanagbon?
Sure.
Yeah, him.
Sounds good to me.
Him. That's the one. He might be a borderline 5-star guy by the time it's done. Massive up on the board at the University of Georgia. So edge player, big kid. Let's go to, when do we see UGA start landing 25 class as a whole? Tomorrow. I think you get a commit tomorrow at the offensive line position.
Here's a question. Someone asked this earlier, but I'm going to kind of change it a little bit.
Okay.
What is Ryan Puglisi's availability going to look like for G-Day? Do you know? Because I know he's been battling the lower body injury. I know he's they're hoping that he can get back to going full speed with the team. But I mean, G-Day it's essentially 9 days from now. So how healthy is he going to be? Is he going to get any run?
Yeah, so Kirby talked about him Tuesday and said that they're hopeful he was going to be a full participant Tuesday's practice. I haven't checked back in and found out what he's been doing recently, but I mean, they're quarterbacks anyways, man. They're not going to get touched.
Right.
So I don't think you're not going to see Ryan Puglisi, right? You're not going to see the guy that's able to, like, he gets comps in the building to Josh Allen. You're not going to see Josh Allen on G-Day.
No.
You're going to see Josh Allen from the pocket on G-Day, I would imagine. And that's good for his development, honestly. Right. Like, hey, stand in here, throw these footballs. But dude, it's not a major injury. It sounds to me like at some point, at some time, because it's been lingering, is what Kirby said. Something he's been bothered with. It sounds like he took a helmet off the top of the knee at some point or something. So that's what it sounds like to me. I don't know if it happened at Georgia or when it happened, but it's not structural. There's no.
Yeah,
he's
probably
got
a bone
sprained
bruise.
MCL or something. Yeah, it's just.
I mean, you can have a
nothing
bone bruises
major.
can take months to heal.
Yeah, so nothing super major there.
Here's a good one.
Yep.
Will C.J. Allen be better than Roquan Smith?
Are you reading bottom up or up to bottom?
I'm reading bottom up.
Yeah, let's take them kind of in sequential order, so we get the guys who ask questions first, not the guys who ask questions most recently. Like this one right here. We'll get back to that one. When do you see UGA? We already talked about that one. What are the realistic chances both Ellis Robinson and KJ Bolden are starting at some point this season? Starting none, unless injuries occur. Not both of them. I think there's a reasonable expectation or reasonable possibility. Keep us in 3. I think there's a reasonable possibility that KJ could be starting at safety at some point this season. But they love Dan Jackson. Dan Jackson's a football playing son of a bitch.
I mean,
dude.
yeah. But also, Dan Jackson has dealt with injury. Like I remember, 2023, he was unavailable for a good part of that season because he was just battling. It was I think he had a stress fracture in his foot.
Yep, stress fracture in his foot, and I think at some point there was maybe a knee injury, but there was a lingering foot injury for sure. So yeah, there's that. But no, I don't think Ellis starts this year unless injuries or transfer portals happen. But he's going to get playing time. There's no doubt about that. How much do you think we'll get? We already got that one. Non-top 100 player. Again, still a little confused on that one, Clay. I wish I had that kind of foresight. That's a good question for Jeremy Johnson. Jeremy Johnson studies the recruiting circuit way harder than I do because Jeremy doesn't have to do 8 hours of live content every week, and he's just good at his job. So it's a question for Jeremy, but I don't necessarily have that one off the top of my head right now. I think my favorite player as of recently, here's an underrated player in 2026. James Johnson, Douglas County High School. I think he's a tremendous football player, but he's 5'11", maybe 5'11", 195 pounds, but is just a great football player.
Sounds like a linebacker.
I watched him Friday Night Lights the other day. He's got a one-on-one, right, running a post route, and there's a soccer goal in the end zone.
Oh God!
Right in the very back of the end zone, right at the white line, right at the end line, and he's running right towards it, and he's got his eyes on the ball. He looks down like a damn outfielder to check the track, looks down, sees the soccer goal, sees he's got room, looks back up, finds the football, nab.
That's insane.
Insane. And again, I noticed it. I don't know if normal people or if people in the chat, do you understand how hard that is? Normally we just stare at the ball and we just watch it, but to be able to take your eyes off of it, put it back on it, find it, and catch it perfectly, it's an elite athlete with elite ball skills. I like James Johnson a lot. Who's the highest ranked player that's on transfer alert? I'm not doing that. I don't like to do that. I find it. I don't even do that on our board. I find it gross when people talk about guys hitting the portal way in advance before they do. Because all you're doing is you're quitting for the kid.
Yeah, you're writing them off.
You're writing them off. You're quitting for the kid. You're quitting on behalf of the kid. I don't do that. I find that gross. And I guarantee you right now there are boards in the Georgia space that probably already have a list going right now telling you, hey, this kid might hit it. This kid might hit it. This kid's flirting with it. We don't do it. I don't like to do it. Oh, yeah. They're talking about that kid that plays with Elijah Griffin. Ladarius Guyton. Guyton,
right.
Out of Savannah Christian, freak. I said it when I saw him in the state championship game. That might be the best football player I ever cover.
Really?
When I'm done with it, Ladarius Guyton might be the best football player I ever cover. He has the potential to be so. He looked like Adam Anderson at 14 years old.
Good God.
He looked like Adam Anderson leaving Georgia at 14 years old when I saw him at the state championship games this year.
Oh, that's the one where you said we're all like,
the one we looked
this
at.
Kid's 14.
LaDamian Guyton is his name, not Ladarius. LaDamian Guyton. Absolutely insane football player. Hope he continues to get better. I don't know how he does it down there at Savannah Christian. They don't allow you to not get better. How are chances for BBG starting at Kentucky? Done. That guy is the starter. That guy, they spent so much time evaluating that one and selecting him specifically to be the starter next year. There's no doubt about that one. Will C.J. Allen be better than Roquan Smith? God, that's hard.
I mean, you got to think about it this way.
He's on track to be.
Well, think about it this way. Roquan Smith for 2015-16 was a solid linebacker. Like, nothing special. 2017 absolutely popped. C.J. Allen popped freshman year.
Yeah.
And it was like, who the hell is this kid? He's about to go into a sophomore. So, I mean, you get to junior year CJ Allen and compare that with whatever Roquan did his junior year in 2017. I mean, you have a chance that CJ Allen is a far superior linebacker.
He will be Roquan in this sense that he will be the first linebacker, I think, in Georgia recent memory that can play both Mike and Will and never leave the field.
Yeah.
Like N'Kobe had to leave the field on third downs. CJ's not going to have to leave the field on third downs.
No.
Monty had to leave the field on third downs, right? There were some willies that couldn't play inside the box at all times, or that were more advantageous to play on passing downs than they were on running downs. Not this guy. This guy's going to stay on the field at all times. So I think the number for me is like 85. If he has 85 total tackles this year, and we know we have another year of that, bro, yeah, he's going to go down as like up there with that one, with that guy.
Trouble.
All right. Do you think UGA D-line will have 10 plus sacks this year? Do you mean like a singular defensive lineman? No. As a total, yeah, for sure. I think it had 22
I think they had
last
22.
year.
Yeah, it was like in the low 20s. But.
Low 20s last year. The real question is, when are they going to have a 10 sack guy? Michael got a chance.
I mean,
I spoke to some NFL guys the other day, NFL scouts. They're already doing the 2025 evals.
Like
A lot of love for Kel. A lot of love for Michael already.
Aziz got 7.5 in 2020, so like it's possible. I mean, a shortened 2020 season, so it's certainly possible. But I just think the way that their defense operates now, it's not as much as a peel your ears back and go get the quarterback as it once was. Maybe that's just because they haven't had an elite pass rusher, or maybe that's just because the scheme has somewhat changed since you've had that true zero, but you don't really have a true zero right now.
I will tell you this. What made Aziz a 7.5 sack guy wasn't just that he was a great pass rusher, right? It was his ability to convert run to pass, right? Because so much play action's going on nowadays, so much putting the ball into the belly of the running backs going on nowadays to kind of disrupt the timing of those defensive linemen. If you cannot first play run and then disengage, get that offensive tackle's hands off of you, and then accelerate to the quarterback, you will not have a multiple sack game, because they will eventually start to scheme you out. Not enough teams at the University against the University of Georgia are doing standard 3 and 5 step drops out of the gun. Okay, most of them are manipulating the pocket at this point, which makes it really, really hard if you don't have the ability to disrupt and disengage and go from run to pass. So that's right there. How many more years do we have left of Kirby Smart before we get burnt out, or he gets burnt out?
I think that's all dependent on what the college football landscape looks like.
Yeah.
I mean, if it stays in its current model, I think you've got at least 10, but shit's going to change more and more. We know that. Like,
I was going to say, if it stays this way, he's out within the decade.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. If he goes 10 years from now, it's 18 years at the University of Georgia. You got way lucky.
For sure.
You got way lucky, if that's what it is. So I think 10 years would be what I would set it at.
Yeah.
I don't see him. Maybe. I mean, he got the job at 39?
He was young, yeah.
38? I can see him coaching 20 years at Georgia up until he's 58. I just don't. You're right. If nothing changes, I don't see it. It's too hard, man.
I mean, the job of a college football coach has become so much more stressful than it was 5 years ago. Like, even go back to pre-COVID, like 2019, like, yeah, you had a transfer portal, but it wasn't as popping as it was. You didn't have NIL to deal with. You didn't have the conference realignments that you're seeing now, where basically the entire future of the sport is in limbo. Like, it was being a college coach was fairly easy back in 2019. Obviously, it wasn't an easy job, but comparatively speaking, it was a breeze.
What are your expectations for this year's team? This comes from Riley F. This is up there a ways. Go 2-1 in the Big Three.
Yeah.
Go 2-1 in the Big Three, and then you will boat race the rest of your schedule.
Be a playoff team.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but the Texas, Alabama, Ole Miss, win 2 out of those 3. I expect you to drop one of them. I just do.
If you had to pick one game that was like, all right, they can drop that one.
Yeah, Texas.
Really?
Texas is going to be good this year.
Obviously, Bama's, because you can't lose to Bama anymore.
Well, I don't know if Bama's going to be a top 5 ranked team in November and December. So if you lose to that team, it's on your record and it's on your resume, I should say, that, you know, they're 11th, 10th, 11th, 12th. Whereas Texas, if you lose to them, I still think they're going to be a top 4 team in the rankings.
Okay, what about Ole Miss then?
It's an in-the-losable game. You cannot lose that football game.
Okay.
And at that point of the year is way deep. Like, in that game in October or November?
Yeah, I think it's
game's in November.
I think it's their second to last SEC matchup.
Yeah, you have to win that football game. So the game you can lose, I'm going to put it at Texas. Isn't that week 3?
No, Bama's
week 3.
Bama's week
Alabama
4
or
because
Texas is in October.
Bama's week 5 maybe.
Okay.
Because you have that, it's 3 games and you have the bye. It's earlier in the season. Bama's like their first big game.
Let's see here. Got a couple more here, guys. Who's taking Brock Bowers' touches? Oh, should we introduce the term DPC?
Bring it on.
All right, here we go. The game of football has become really, really positionless, right? Not extremely positionless, but it has in this sense. We've kind of, you know, started playing a lot more nickel, started to play a lot more hybrid front defenses, right? Where with everyone's multiple nowadays, everybody plays a bunch of different fronts, everybody plays a bunch of different coverages, and we're very, very multiple, which has it both eliminated and created a lot of new positions and gotten rid of some old ones. Like the outside linebacker, I cease to believe it exists. You're an edge rusher. That's what you are. You don't stand out over number 2, okay, unless you're Clemson and you're Barrett Carter. But the rest of you guys, you're 6'3.5" plus, you're 240 pounds plus. You put your hand in the dirt on third down and you try to get sacks. You are an edge rusher. You're not an outside linebacker. However, it's applied to the offensive side of the football as well. The better man coverages have become with regards to principles and how we trade things off. The more zone match coverage has become integrated into the college football world and the defensive world in general. The harder and harder coverages have become to dissect and to dictate. The more and more important it's become to both bunch and motion on the offensive side of the football. So you got guys going in pre-snap motion all the time. I think the numbers on some teams this year in the league were as high as like 92% at places like the Rams, at places like the Bengals, at places like that are running Shanahan's, right? The 49ers. With all of these teams running a shitload of motion, you might start lined up as the X, but when the ball snapped, you might be behind the right guard's butt, or you might have just crossed over the tight end, or you might have been at the slot and we motioned you out to the X, right? You're positionless. You don't really have one. You're in motion, or you're bunched, or we're hiding you, right? All we're really trying to find nowadays at places like Georgia and some of these places like in the NFL that run these pro-style motion-based offenses and move offenses, right? We're trying to find designated pass catchers, guys that are real tough mismatches. They're both really, really hard to stay in front of, and they're really, really hard to tackle. All right, they're really, really hard to get on the ground. After the catch, they're violent. After the catch, they're explosive, right? Some of these designated pass catchers I think of, Tyreek Hill is a designated pass catcher. Watch Tyreek Hill on Sunday and try to define one of the routes he's running. Try. Say, oh, that's a slant. Or, oh, that's a double move. He ran post corner. Or, oh, that's a 12 to 15 yard dig. No.
It's just called get to open.
Yeah, it's called see that grass, get your ass there as fast as possible. We'll get the ball to you. Okay, Deebo Samuel, designated pass catcher. DJ Moore, designated pass catcher. Okay, Brock Bowers, designated pass catcher. He might have been lined up at running back last year. He might have been lined up at end of line tight end. Might have been lined up at H-back. Might have been lined up in the slot. Might have been lined up outside, motioning them in. He was all over the place. He was designated to catch the ball. That's all he was doing. So, who's going to be the new designated pass catcher? Puka Nacua, designated pass catcher. Who's going to be the new designated pass catcher at the University of Georgia? It's easy. It's Dylan Bell. Dylan Bell's the new designated pass catcher. He's going to eat up some of these. Hey, we can't really get this guy open today. He's getting a lot of good coverage. All right, send him in motion. Put him in a bunch. Hide him. Find him. Do something to make him unguardable, or make it harder for the defense to find him, or make it harder for the defense to approach coverage against him post snap. Designated ball catcher. All right, ladies and gentlemen.
Beautifully put. Dan, did you hit it?
I hit the secondary monitor. Didn't mean to. We'll see you Tuesday, Monday, and hopefully our camera switcher's working again. I don't know what the hell happened to that. If you got if you're a representative from Canon listening today, I'm coming for your ass right after this show is over.
You're gonna what?
Spent way too much money for you to be crapping out. Okay, 8 months into the installation of this studio. Love you. See you. Bye.
He said coming for your ass.